Time slowly passed, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had gone by. During this time, the towering tree rooted in the desert remained motionless. However, something curious was happening. The lifeless desert was now teeming with vitality. In just half a month, a patch of green had appeared in the yellow desert, and huge trees had sprung up from the ground, one after another. Out of nowhere, a new green forest had emerged. Even when holding back, it has still influenced an entire region so quickly. Hiya! What a monster! Sighing, the mutant sheep, who had long reached Tier 4, shook his head helplessly. He was not good at fighting. His strengths lay more in hiding and survival. As such, he naturally wouldn't participate in battles of this level. However, he had never expected that the mutant beast kings of this continent would all fall here, with none managing to escape. Taking a long, deep breath, he once again hid his presence and retreated silently. Despite just a Tier 4, this monstrous tree had reached the pinnacle, capable of affecting the entire continent, even the entire planet's ecological balance with its own power. It's simply invincible. It must not be provoked. Meanwhile, on another continent far from Australia. In the heart of Flame City. It's about time. With a light chuckle, Ling Er raised her eyes to look not far away, where an airship, a perfect blend of spiritual energy and technology capable of crossing oceans, was awaiting silently. This was one of China's top technological achievements. The airship had its own unique defense system, capable of fully resisting attacks from mutant beasts. At the same time, it could also minimize the spiritual energy fluctuations to a great extent. As of now, it was the safest and fastest flying tool China had. This time, we're heading to America to discuss the future direction of the human race and to promote the name of China, reminding once again, the messenger sent by the Chinese government wiped the sweat from his forehead, nervously advising the noble and elegant figure before him, Empress Ling Er. I know. Waving her hand dismissively, Ling Er replied in an indifferent manner. However, after a moment, as if sensing something, her eyes lit up. She looked at the deck of the airship, where more than a dozen figures stood, including men, women, young and old. However, all of them had one thing in common: everyone's aura was strong. Empress, we'll leave it to you to lead the team. Continuing to wipe the sweat from his forehead, the messenger gave another reminder. First, he was nervous. After all, the woman before him, though incredibly beautiful, was one of the most terrifying superhumans of China. Second, it was hot, extremely hot. Standing next to Empress Ling Er felt like being beside a furnace, enveloped by an indescribable heat. Hiya, having said all he needed to say, the emissary took a long, deep breath, finally bidding his goodbye. Empress, I'll take my leave now. With that, he immediately retreated. At this moment, Ling Er, who had been looking towards the heart of China with interest, had a flicker in her eyes. Aren't those old geezers afraid that I'll kill these young talents? Whatever, I'm in a good mood this time, I won't cause trouble. Smiling inwardly, Ling Er pushed aside such thoughts. To some extent, her interests were now aligned with those in the capital of China. After all, only with a powerful China could she obtain more resources. From this perspective, Ling Er had no reason to undermine China. At the same time, in the alliance of South Asian nations, a masked, slender girl walked towards a distant place. Holy Nun Aisha, besides you, another holy monk and holy nun will be accompanying you this time. Please be considerate, a retainer stated with a hint of trepidation. Holy Nun Aisha was the most outstanding and terrifying holy nun of Buddhism. Her innate talent was simply amazing, and after the advent of the third spiritual energy tide, she also managed to reach Tier 4. Besides, she herself was extremely terrifying. The reason for this was simple: she had a very strong killing intent. Over the years, the number of mutant beasts and even humans who had perished at her hands might be in millions, if not tens of millions. Every mission she undertook, she was like a wildfire, burning everything in her path. Her fearsome power made it hard to imagine that she was a delicate young girl. I know, she responded impatiently before casting a glance at the girl cloaked in a silver robe behind her. Owl, are you looking forward to it? Yes. Nodding, Lin Ze, Yu's second apostle and a girl with top-tier spatial innate talent, couldn't help but have her eyes shine. Just as Aisha said, she was looking forward to it. Actually, she was excited about meeting a familiar figure. With such a large human gathering, he is bound to be there, isn't he? As this thought crossed his mind, Lin Ze's lips couldn't help but curl up slightly. Shortly after, she waved her hand toward the empty space ahead. Rip, with a crisp sound, a spatial rift appeared before many human eyes. Space Portal, the most convenient ability Lin Ze currently possesses. It allowed her to traverse great distances through space. Not only could she pass through, but she could also bring others along. Let's go. With a light chuckle, two figures disappeared from everyone's sight one after the other. In contrast to the alliance of Southeast Asian nations and China, which had just set out, other continents were not far behind. Europe, a continent with diverse human culture. The power at its top, the small city-state, Vatican, also witnessed a team of white-clad knights slowly march out. In the midst of the white-clad knights were a man and a woman dressed in luxurious attire. They were Vatican's Holy Son and Holy Daughter. Standing at the top of Vatican, their status was no less than that of the popes. At this moment, if one looked closely, they would even notice faint light wings on their backs. The light wings were small and not easily noticeable at first glance, but they were indeed there. These were the marks of the Holy Son and Holy Daughter, the wings of light. According to legend, they were Vatican's greatest secret treasure. In the heart of the Australian desert. How have things been lately? Waking up from his contemplation, Yuziu asked casually. Recently, the Australian continent has been noticeably more subdued. Numerous mutant beast clans have started to restrain themselves, seemingly fearful of our presence. Speaking of this, Nine Tails seemed to recall something and added, also, we received a notification from Ling Air that the human elites are gathering in America. Is that so? Muttering to himself, Yuziu remembered Ling Air had mentioned something like this to him not long ago. The Master of Magnetism has summoned elites from various human nations on behalf of America to discuss the future direction of the human race. I see, Yuziu's lips could not help but curl up into a smile. He was a bit excited. If necessary, I might have to make an appearance. I'm really interested in how humanity is progressing. But before that, his eyes narrowed slightly as Yuziu looked towards a vortex. Amidst the swirling mist, a small space pocket appeared. The pocket of mist, a space pocket Yuziu had recently developed, had now expanded to several kilometers in size. The reason for this rapid expansion was. Narrowing his eyes, Yuziu saw two figures floating quietly within the misty haze. One was golden, with each of its hair shining with a dazzling light, as if weaved from gold. The other was gray-black with a strong physique that made it appear a giant even among mutant kangaroos. They were the Light and Dark King, the twin kings of the mutant kangaroo clan, renowned for their close combat prowess. They were true battle machines in every sense. Every part of their bodies was a weapon. An ordinary mutant beast would have its bones shattered by just a strike from their elbows or whip of their tails. In terms of combat instincts alone, few on the Australian continent could match them. However, unfortunately for them, they ran into the Dark Dragon and the Lightning Dragon, two of the purest giant dragons. Given the advantage of their species, they quickly and completely suppressed the twins. Furthermore, using the dragon tongue magic to harness elemental forces, they sealed their bodies and even their souls. Now, amidst a series of low roars, Yuziu saw the white mists in the pocket of mist continuously twisting. Twisting, converging, entwining. The endless white mist began weaving like Yuziu's roots, until two figures gradually emerged. grunting once again, Wuxia saw these hazy figures slowly approach the Dark and Light Kings suspended in midair. Silently standing, they each raised a hand and pressed it against the chests of the Dark and Light Kings. Boom, boom, the Dark and Light Kings' bodies trembled violently. Following this, under Wuxia's expectant gaze, a torrent of golden energy surged towards one of the mist-formed kangaroos. On the other side, a torrent of gray-black energy surged towards the other. Upon closer inspection, one could even see two ferocious and violent souls roaring skyward within the energy torrents. It's useless. The pocket of mist has the power to bind souls, Wuxia stated calmly, smiling. Binding souls, to simply put it, was the power to restrain souls. No matter how powerful one was in their life, once they entered the pocket of mist, their souls could only be at the mercy of Wuxia. This was the most terrifying aspect of the pocket of mist. One must understand that the mist here wasn't just ordinary mist. It was infused with the power of Wuxia's immortal tree and blended with countless remnant souls, which created the soul mist. Just as Wuxia explained, with two more low grunts, Wuxia saw the two figures of mist gradually solidified. At the same time, their faces became clearer, revealing appearances identical to the Dark and Light Kings. However, compared to the Dark and Light Kings, they were more ethereal, with mist subtly flowing around them. It's finally done. Watching these two puppet-like immortal mist beasts, Wuxia muttered to himself, his eyes narrowing slightly. A moment later, with a thought, the two figures swooshed towards each other before they started clashing with each other in the pocket of mist. Boom, 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 fists collided with fists, bodies slammed into bodies. Their fist generated winds with so much force that the winds alone could cut through anything, and shockwaves from their clashes spread like waves. Every second and every moment, shockwaves rippled through the pocket of mist, endlessly. In terms of pure combat power, they were slightly inferior to Tier 4 Transcendence. However, considering their near-immortal and indestructible nature, and difficulty to deal with, their evaluation should be higher. In other words, these two creatures' combat prowess should be considered a natural disaster class. Moreover, their growth potential is enormous. They can advance by devouring remnant souls. Making this simple assessment, Wuxia was quite satisfied. Sacrificing the souls of two Tier 4s to create two war machines was totally worth it. Moreover, his gaze slowly shifted to the two carcasses lying in the misty air in the distance. At the very least, these cold bodies were not wasted. The bodies of two Tier 4 mutant beasts were invaluable. Not to mention, Wuxia also gained 20 million evolution points. After all, the immortal mist beasts were one of Wuxia's abilities. So, Wuxia would naturally harvest a significant amount of evolution points by using this ability to kill two Tier 4 mutant beasts. Excellent, I've used everything to its fullest potential, this makes it truly worthwhile. With a chuckle, Wuxia withdrew his gaze from the pocket of mist. Now, the immortal mist beasts are ready for use. It's time to hunt strange and unusual beasts and expand Sentinel. Simultaneously, I need to collect more resources. Thinking of this, Wuxia turned his gaze towards Nine Tails nearby and called her out softly, "Nine Tails, it's about time, are we heading out?" Asking, a look of anticipation appeared on Nine Tails' face. Nodding, Wuxia clarified, "Give everyone 5 more days to rest. Then, take White Tiger and the others to visit various clans, demanding they hand over their resources. But don't drain them dry. Just collect about 10 to 20% of what they have." "Yes, Master." Nine Tails could not help but chuckle, understanding Wuxia's intentions. Streaks of light swooshed as numerous natural disaster class transcendents, led by Nine Tails, flew in all directions. At the same time, Wuxia intensified his absorption of spiritual energy. Visible to the naked mountain peaks centered around his main body began to glow. Those were the signs of spiritual energy flowing. Every mountain was glowing with different colors: dark red for fire attribute, blue for ice attribute, silver for lightning attribute, yellow for earth attribute. Among these were also rare streaks of black for darkness attribute and occasional white for light attribute. All kinds of spiritual energy surged into Wuxia, circulating within his body. Consequently, the spiritual energy within Wuxia started growing at a speed visible to the naked eyes. Boom! With a thunderous roar, a vortex of spiritual energy rose around Wuxia's main body. For the moment, even the sky was painted in vibrant hues. This was the effect of Wuxia truly training when resources were plentiful. Australia was indeed bountiful. In just one part of the desert, Wuxia had found no fewer than 20 spirit stone mines, many of which were rich in lightning attribute spirit stone. Light attribute spirit stone mines were relatively fewer. However, this was not a big issue. Rumor had it that the Vatican, a major force in Europe, possessed numerous light attribute spirit stone mines, one of which was even an enormous superb level spirit stone mine. With such a target, Wuxia was not worried about the light attribute spirit stone mine. At this moment, glancing at the increasingly expansive Nine Heavens realm, Wuxia felt a sense of satisfaction. Collecting so many resources wasn't in vain. The expansion rate had increased several times compared to usual. Especially the pocket of mist and the pocket of darkness, these newly created spaces had reached a diameter of 1,000 meters in just a few days. Once these two space pockets have expanded to a diameter of 10,000 meters, the true power of the 9 realms of heaven can be partially shown. A gush of thrill filled Wuxia as he thought to himself. As a grand divine ability, and an exclusive one at that, Wuxia had high expectations for its power. In this world, there probably aren't many grand divine abilities yet. In fact, there might be none. Even in the previous era, when cultivation had reached its peak, true grand divine abilities were rare. Rumor had it that there were only 36 grand divine abilities. Each grand divine ability represented an unparalleled powerhouse. This is a proof in itself of the formidable power of a grand divine ability. Even my grand divine ability, for instance, if it's truly mastered, would provide me unparalleled self-preservation. Thanks to being the immortal tree, I would have endless vitality as long as I had an ample supply of spiritual energy. And backed by the 9 Heavens realm, I would have a source of endless spiritual energy. It's just perfect. With a smile in his heart, Wuxia had decided on his general cultivation direction for the future. However, at that moment, as if sensing something, Wuxia was suddenly taken aback. Impossible. In a somewhat incredulous voice, Wuxia's expression changed slightly. Only in very rare instances would someone like Wuxia experience a day when his expression changed. Given his current strength, even if the sky were falling, he could remain completely calm. But now, Hiya, taking a deep breath, Wuxia suppressed the shock in his heart and shifted his consciousness to the cosmic root. Constantly exploring the void through the cosmic roots, he had once again made a new discovery following the third spiritual energy tide. And this time, his discovery was actually a world teeming with life, which really took Wuxia by surprise. It's truly surprising, a world full of life has actually appeared right before me. Gasping in shock, Wuxia's consciousness shifted to the cosmic root. Following the roots into the depths of the void, viewing from the perspective of the cosmic root, crossing an immeasurable distance. Far away, in an unfamiliar starry sky, there lay a green planet, surging with abundant vitality. Even from a great distance, Wuxia could sense traces of spiritual energy fluctuations. Green, life, and spiritual energy, this proves that this planet has nurtured life. Muttering in a low voice, Wuxia's gaze turned slightly cold. Following the dark forest theory, he was inherently wary of unfamiliar planets. And now, having suddenly discovered a planet with life, he was considering what he should do next. Lost in thought, Wuxia's purple root that had torn through space slowly opened a blood-red eye, which gleamed with crimson light the next moment. Immediately, as if transcending space, Wuxia's gaze focused on a corner of this planet. His view magnified, again and again, piercing through the planet's atmosphere, even the clouds, piercing through the dense forest canopy, even the shadows of the trees. Finally, it fixed on a figure dressed in beast skin and wrapped in green leaves. It was a girl. No, it should be more accurate to say that she was a life form resembling a girl, for she had ears different from humans, long, pointed ears. Her skin was incredibly exquisite and fair, surpassing that of any human, as if it was a divine gift from the Creator. As for her hair, it was green, though somewhat light in color. She looks like an elf, muttering to himself. Wuxia quickly withdrew his gaze. Although he did not know the combat strength of this planet, such a presumptuous investigation was indeed a sign of him not being collected enough. Still, given his excitement, Wuxia really could not hold back. Of course, this also stemmed from Wuxia's confidence. If discovered, he could forcibly sever the connection with the cosmic root. After all, Wuxia was hidden in the dark and was not afraid of being discovered. As his consciousness returned to his main body, the sky had already darkened. Clearly, a considerable amount of time had passed during the time his consciousness traveled back and forth. However, this was also a testament of how distant that planet was from Wuxia. At least, half a starfield away, otherwise the descent of consciousness wouldn't have taken such a long time. After all, Wuxia felt it was just a brief moment, but in reality, half a day had passed. This time difference was enough to confirm Wuxia's perspective. If it really is the elven race, I'll need to plan carefully, murmuring, Wuxia began to calculate in his mind. The elven race was not an ordinary race. Even without the inherited knowledge like Golden Monkey and the others, Wuxia knew that the elves were a truly high-level race. The men were handsome, and the women were beautiful. Moreover, they had a natural affinity for elements, meaning spiritual energy. Not only that, but they were also natural archers. Of course, being close to nature was another hallmark of this race. With all kinds of thoughts running in his mind, Wuxia felt a bit frustrated. The first planet with life he encountered was inhabited by such a high-level race. It was quite a twist. If it came to a fight, he might not have the upper hand. Most importantly, Wuxia did not know the evolutionary level of this planet's peak life forms. If they were Tier 6 or Tier 7, Wuxia would straight up pretend as if he had not seen this planet. Of course, theoretically, the appearance of Tier 6 transcendence was very unlikely at this time. As for Tier 7, that was an impossibility among impossibilities. Wuxia took a deep breath, his eyes flickering. It's necessary to carefully plan this out. If possible, it would be best to bring that planet under my control. The reason Wuxia was having this idea was because that planet was not very large. Compared to Earth, the planet on which Wuxia was currently residing on, it was at least 3 to 4 times smaller. This significantly increased the likelihood of a successful conquest. After all, a smaller planet likely had fewer powerful transcendents. The prime concern was the most powerful transcendents on that planet. They had the possibility of reaching Wuxia's level. Wuxia planned to probe a bit to make an informed decision. However, one thing was certain: if this planet did not have a formidable entity capable of deterring him, it was destined to be overrun by his legion. At that time, it would face a true interstellar invasion. A wide grin appeared on Wuxia's lips as he finished drawing a plan in his mind. Just then, Ruhur. Amidst a series of long roars and howls, Wuxia saw the nearby mutant beasts returning. Behind them were hundreds of mutant beasts, fearfully dragging spirit stones, spirit flowers, and spirit herbs. Not bad. Sensing the surging spiritual energy from the piled-up resources, Wuxia was completely satisfied. More importantly, resources like these would be delivered in an unending stream. This meant Wuxia's resource stockpile would grow exponentially. With a smile on his lips, Wuxia circulated his spiritual energy flow, first opening the pocket of ice. The temperature inside the pocket of ice was so low that it could freeze most of the spirit herbs and flower. Other spirit herbs and flowers with specific attributes were categorized and placed accordingly. For instance, the fire spirit grass, which could continuously grow by absorbing fire attribute spiritual energy, was planted in the pocket of flame. Over the past few days, Wuxia had discovered that planting spirit herbs and flowers of similar attributes in these space pockets aided the flow of spiritual energy and even, to some extent, the expansion of the space pockets. For Wuxia, the benefits of this were self-evident. Time passed slowly, and soon it was the agreed time between Wuxia and Nine Tails. Looking up, the accumulated spirit herbs and flowers had formed a small mountain. Various spirit stone mines were casually placed on the ground. "Thank you for your hard work." After giving his thanks, Wuxia opened the vortices of the 9 realms of heaven, sucking in everything. Accompanying this, one by one, the mutant beasts entered the depths of the vortices in an orderly manner. Just then, as if remembering something, Wuxia instructed, "In my various space pockets, you can cultivate by eating spirit herbs, spirit flowers, and spirit stone mines." "Understood, Master." Nine Tails nodded her acknowledgement, understanding the reason behind this. The reason for this was naturally because the resources collected over the past few days had exceeded Wuxia's expectations. Not to mention, the pocket of earth was now filled with spirit herbs and flowers, teeming with life. Compared to before, it was 10 times more lush. Even though this was just a small portion of the major forces' resources on this continent, combined, it was still a staggering amount. Wuxia estimated that these resources would be sufficient for the numerous mutant beasts in Misty Mountains to cultivate for years. With thousands of thoughts running in his mind, Wuxia was at a loss for words. As expected, murdering and looting is rewarding. The speed at which resources are gathered through plundering is indeed astonishingly fast. No, it can't be called plundering. More accurately, it's like harvesting after reaching a certain level of cultivation. To put it bluntly, when Wuxia had reached Tier 5, he already considered this world his own, and since it was his world, harvesting was only natural. After all, while this world was embroiled in constant internal conflict, Wuxia had been secretly preparing to face external enemies and even invade other worlds. Since resources aren't lacking, it's then a matter of strengthening the sentinels and selecting suitable characters for invasion. Shifting his thoughts quickly, Wuxia smiled in his heart. He turned his gaze towards the other side of the ocean. Compared to this continent, other continents are also worth visiting. From what I know, there are many powerful beings on other continents as well. Africa, the cradle of ancient civilizations, should have many powerful mutant beasts with considerable combat strength. Among them, there should be some that can rival monsters like the red-beaked platypus and even behemoth. And the mysterious Antarctic continent should also have no shortage of mysterious mutant beasts. If ice attribute mutant beasts are needed, that place is also worth a visit. As he pondered, Wuxia's thoughts became clearer. Of course, clarity of thought aside, Wuxia knew that he still needed to investigate more thoroughly. After all, times had changed, and Wuxia was not very clear about the specific situations on each continent. For example, the current Australian continent. If Wuxia had not deliberately released the aura of the heaven and earth tree and other powerful beings to attract numerous mutant beasts, he wouldn't have known that there were beings like behemoth deep within Australia. As numerous mutant beasts gradually returned to the space pockets, Wuxia's gaze shifted to the depths of the ocean. While I'm plundering one continent after another, the ocean should not be too peaceful at this moment either. With this thought, Wuxia's consciousness shifted to a section of the cosmic root in the deep sea. At that moment, somewhere in the deep sea, on an altar made of countless piled rocks, a section of seemingly purple root suddenly trembled slightly. Immediately, an invisible ripple spread out in all directions. "Hurry, hurry, tell the patriarch, the sacred relic has shown movements, yes, yes." Amidst a series of exclamations, a shadow, massive and as large as a mountain, let out a deep and resonant cry. It was a lonely and prolonged cry, but far beyond the grasp of ordinary people. This was the unique cry of the Orca clan. Only a fellow mutant Orca could understand its meaning. As soon as this cry echoed in the deep sea, in the distance, another cry far beyond the imagination of ordinary people suddenly resounded throughout the deep sea. Accompanying it was an overwhelming aura that surged upward. Mas, hearing the distant call, Wuxia nodded slightly and directly asked, "How is the ocean these days?" Reporting to the master, the current oceans, through our efforts, have become rife with wars. The Mare people and Fishmen clans, after losing their kings, are now in disarray. If everything goes as expected, power struggles are inevitable. If we seize this opportunity to divide the 7 deep clans, I believe the chaos among the sea clans that the master wishes to see will certainly come to pass. A thick and powerful voice gradually arrived, even before the king of Orcus, Whalefall, arrived. Whalefall's reply left Wuxia satisfied. After a moment, as if remembering something, Wuxia asked again, "And what about Slytherin?" Slytherin was a young beast of misty mountains, a serpent initially deformed by the nuclear explosion. After such a long time, Wuxia believed this little one would not disappoint his expectations. Slytherin, Whalefall's voice carried a hint of a smile. Moments later, hiss, hiss, earth-shaking hisses arose from afar. At the same time, Wuxia keenly sensed a very ominous aura rising. A cold and dark ominous aura with a certain yet inexplicable savagery. Looking in the direction of the hisses, Wuxia saw pairs of crimson eyes, like red lanterns, emerging from the depths of the sea. 1 pair, 2 pairs. A full 8 pairs of eyes. The ferocity in them conveyed an unspeakable terror. Only Wuxia could remain calm. Any ordinary person, just being stared at by these 8 pairs of eyes, would feel chills all over. Slytherin. Seeing this massive form, Wuxia was in doubt. It was a giant serpent with a head resembling a dragon. However, it had 8 heads. Its eyes were as bright red as blood, and the scales on its back faintly shimmered with a dark and cold gleam, even in the darkness. And on its abdomens, there were blood-colored lightning patterns. Hiss, a joyful hiss reverberated through the sea as the blood-colored patterns on Slytherin's abdomen glowed red. He seemed excited, perhaps even joyful. Yamada no Orochi. Muttering to himself once more, Wuxia focused his gaze. He was not the hesitant type. Since he could not figure it out, he would just look at the status screen. And just as he guessed, moments later, a series of information flooded his view. Race, mutant serpent bloodline, bloodline of the legendary disaster incarnate, Yamada no Orochi. Each dragon head contains unique powers, able to absorb negative emotions and grow continually. Rank, Transcendent Tier 4. Innate talent, ultimate fear. Upon awakening its bloodline, the main head harbors fear. The more fear in its enemies, the stronger it becomes, able to directly consume fear to heal wounds and even grow. Unique abilities, lethal venom. Its venom is beyond common understanding. It's capable of corroding anything, potentially even natural disaster-level defenses. Fear stare. When all 8 pairs of eyes stare at a single target, fear magnifies infinitely, completely destroying the enemy's mental defenses. Great serpent scales. Its body is covered with dragon scales like palm-sized scales, which grants Yamada astonishing defense. Great serpent blood. The more it fights, the crazier it becomes. And when it burns its blood, it inevitably goes on a rampage. Staring blankly, Wuxia's eyes narrowed further. I've to admit, Slytherin's growth has exceeded my expectations. It had truly awakened the bloodline of Yamada no Orochi. More importantly, it could rely on fear to grow continually. Silently praising in his mind, Wuxia gave a nod. He was completely satisfied with Slythion's grown. Though he had not tested Slytherin's combat power, just looking at the status screen, he knew it was of the highest tier. In other words, Slytherin with the awakened bloodline of the Yamada no Orochi should be the apex predator of the food chain, comparable to powerful races like the behemoth, dragons, and even the celestial foxes. In terms of peculiarity, it might even surpass them. At this moment, Master, greeting in a deep and hoarse voice, a figure whose single dragon head alone measured 20 to 30 meters in length slowly approached Yuziyu. Long time no see. With a wide grin, Yuziyu greeted Yamada no Orochi. As of now, among the three young deformed beasts, Slytherin, Lupin, and Oris, Slytherin had grown the fastest. Next was Oris. As for Lupin, he was only a tier 3 transcendent in the realm of sovereign. Although not weak, he still lagged behind Oris, let alone Slytherin who had awakened a powerful bloodline. It truly had been a long time. Filled with excitement, Slytherin affectionately moved closer, seemingly anticipating Yuziyu's caress. Seeing this, Yuziyu could only shake his head helplessly. Spiritual energy surged as the segment of cosmic root grew, gently resting on the one of Slytherin's dragon heads, and began to softly stroke it. As Yuziyu caressed him, Slytherin also opened up, talking non-stop, as if wanting to share everything that had happened over the years with Yuziyu. Master, you have no idea. When I awakened my bloodline, the vision I saw was terrifying. The figure in my vision was the progenitor of the Yamada no Orochi clan, the true source of all calamities. Not only could he devour fear, but he could also consume sorrow, despair. All negative emotions can be used by him. According to that figure, his complete form was that of a true tier 8 life form. Slytherin's ceaseless recount carried a hint of yearning. Clearly, the progenitor of the Yamada no Orochi clan had left a significant impression on Slytherin. A tier 8, murmuring, Yuziyu's pupils slightly contracted. He had not expected such an existence to be mentioned by Slytherin. However, thinking about it, it made sense. To bear the name of calamity in the previous era, no matter how exaggerated, such strength was to be expected. It could even be said that the essence it comprehended might be calamity itself. Creating disasters, savoring the negative emotions of living beings within those disasters, and thus continuously growing. But at this moment, as if recalling something, Slytherin paused momentarily and then added, however, according to my memories, the progenitor of the Yamada no Orochi clan seemed to be ambushed by many experts of the Eternal Realm, and even great sages, just as he was breaking through to tier 8. Not only was he knocked down in tier, but he also had to disperse his power and flee. By the time he truly died, his dispersed power had never returned. Quietly listening to Slytherin, Yuziyu was completely dumbfounded. It was the first tier 8 expert he had heard about, yet his life ended so pathetically. His final glory was set the moment he ascended to tier 8. Ahem, forcefully coughing, Yuziyu consoled, it's okay. No matter what, the source of your bloodline comes from a tier 8 life form. Your potential is there. Indeed, Slytherin also agreed, nodding. At this moment, as if recalling something, Yuziyu suddenly asked, so, you've awakened the power of fear? Yes, Slytherin nodded slightly, grinning. I feed on fear. The more fear I devour, the faster I grow, I see, muttering to himself, Yuziyu became lost in thought. If what Slytherin said is true, there might be others in the universe bearing the same Yamada no Orochi legacy. However, they might not carry the power of fear. Instead, they might wield other negative forces. For example, sadness, anger, hatred. According to Slytherin's story, the progenitor of the Yamada no Orochi clan had his power split and scattered, and it has yet to return. It might have split into legacies. Yuziyu curled his lips with a hint of expectation. If that's the case, Slytherin has a promising future. After a brief chat, Yuziyu promptly shifted his consciousness and returned to his main body. Before returning, Yuziyu instructed Slytherin to move closer to Australia, where Yuziyu would arrange for Nine-Tails and other mutant beasts to meet him. After having left him roam for some time, Wuxia decided that it was time for him to return. More importantly, Wuxia planned to personally guide Slytherin in developing his power. Currently, Slytherin has transformed into a deep-sea serpent, feeding on the fear of many mutant sea creatures. However, because of this, he had failed to understand what true fear was. Mutant beasts held more reverence to the strong than fearing them. True fear was rare among them. Even if it existed, it was far from enough for Slytherin. Wuxia, on the other hand, was different. He clearly understood that the more complex emotions one had, how to truly breed purer fear. For instance, humans, elves, such creatures could breed the most exquisite fear. Of course, this was just speculation, and Wuxia had decided to confirm it first. Additionally, Wuxia had a mutant beast by his side, Dream Beast. He could easily enter others' dreams and weave dreamscapes. If Dream Beast cooperated with Slytherin, Wuxia believed that without shedding blood, Slytherin could easily harvest the power of fear. Moreover, this harvest would be sustainable. This was the main reason Wuxia wanted Slytherin to return. As for Whalefall, the king of Orcus, as a sea creature, although he could leave the sea, his combat power would greatly diminish. Therefore, Wuxia instructed him to continue guarding the sea. When necessary, he would follow Wuxia into battle. However, before leaving, Wuxia also imparted some knowledge to Whalefall, how to evolve to have a humanoid form. In other words, like Bull Demon, he could walk upright and even gain a human body from evolution. This was not because the original form of the orca was substandard, but rather it was somewhat inconvenient. According to Wuxia's knowledge, in the previous era, there was a race known as the whale fish men. They were beings with heads of whales and bodies of humans. They were one of the few races known for their immense strength and formidable close combat abilities. This was the correct evolutionary path for the orca clan. Mutant beasts were ultimately beasts, symbols of savagery and power. However, humans and various humanoid creatures were the starting point of wisdom and evolution. Individually, it was natural to follow the instinct of the bloodline, evolving continuously until becoming the most powerful beast. However, for a race, evolving towards humanoid forms was more reliable. For example, the various mutant beast clans in the depths of Australia. The mutant kangaroo clan and the spirit cat clan were all evolving towards having something akin to humanoid forms. Evolution is the greatest miracle in this universe. With this sigh, Wuxia's gaze could not help but sparkle. Compared to other times, now truly marks a great era, because the speed of evolution of all beings in this era has far exceeded the norms, it's hundreds or even thousands of times faster than before. Driven by wave after wave of spiritual energy tides, what would have taken tens of thousands of years of evolution was compressed into just a few short years. Marveling at this, Wuxia's gaze shifted to a nearby location. White Tiger, head to Mount Warning and meet Slytherin. Slytherin. White Tiger was momentarily stunned, unable to immediately react. However, after a moment, as if realizing something, a gleam of joy flashed in White Tiger's eyes, and he shouted excitedly, "It's that little one, isn't it? I can't believe he's back." Saying this, White Tiger spread his wings and flew towards the coast. Mount Warning was not far from the desert. Considering Slytherin's speed in sea, he would probably be here in a day or two. I'm really eager to see White Tiger's and the other mutant beasts' reactions when they see Slytherin. The little one is no longer the small creature of the past. Smiling to himself, Wuxia relaxed and decided to wait for another day or two. Meanwhile, around the desert. A standing upright black cat with a slender build, looked at the desert in the distance, her eyes flickering with determination. After a moment, as if making up her mind, the mutant black wildcat turned and stated, "Once I'm gone, the spirit cat clan will be left to you, Matt." Ryark, speaking with hesitation, a look of reluctance showed up on the face of the three-tailed spirit cat. "I yearn for power, I must become stronger." Dropping this sentence, the upright walking mutant spirit cat started making her way towards the depths of the desert. After a long while, she slowly lifted her gaze, looking at the towering tree piercing through the clouds, and stated, bowing, "Greetings, divine tree, I have come to pledge my loyalty." Such simple and straightforward words immediately brought a wide grin on Yu's lips. He was not surprised by the mutant beasts seeking allegiance. In the past 2 days, quite a few mutant beasts had pledged their loyalty to him. The strong ones were integrated into various space pockets to bolster their strength. As for the average ones, Yu could only regretfully deny. However, among the many mutant beasts, this black spirit cat stood out. Not only was her aura exceptionally strong, but she was also exceptionally beautiful. Her slender and graceful figure was further decorated by sleek black fur and a pair of purple eyes that shone with intelligence. Just then, as if sensing something, Yu asked with interest, "Did you fail your tribulation?" The spirit cat was momentarily taken aback, then a look of bitterness crossed her face as she straightforwardly responded, "Not long ago, when I reached Tier 4 and faced the tribulation, I was ambushed." "I see," responding in a soft voice, Yu narrowed his eyes slightly, focusing his gaze on the spirit cat. "As I expected, judging by her aura, she is indeed at Tier 3, but her physical strength has far surpassed the typical Tier 3 transcendent. Furthermore, there is an aura of lightning tribulation lingering on her. In other words, she has only partially completed the tribulation before her Tier fell back. Still, for her to somehow survive the tribulation, she must have used some kind of secret technique." Pondering this, Yu confirmed the potential of the spirit cat. The fact that she managed to survive after her Tier fell, regardless of the means, was indeed commendable. Not to mention, she was also surrounded by powerful enemies. If she had another opportunity to rise to Tier 4, her combat power would likely far exceed that of an ordinary Tier 4. After all, enduring 2 tribulations was no small feat, such an existence was certainly worth nurturing. "From now on, you will be a member of the Sentinel, codenamed Spirit Cat," as Yu spoke calmly. A green vortex, resembling a portal, slowly opened before the astonished spirit cat. Spirit cat, murmuring to herself, the upright walking cat slowly entered the vortex. For a moment, everything spun around, and by the time she came to her senses, spirit cat found herself in a peculiar place, an extremely peculiar place. It was a land mass with an end visible to the naked eye. And at the center of the landmass was an enormous lake. Not far from the lake was an enormous tree, resembling an ox, that seemed to be holding up the sky. However, that was not the most important thing. What was truly striking was that as soon as Spirit Cat arrived in this strange place, every pore of her body seemed to relax as an indescribable power surged into her body, nourishing every cell in her body. Even the hidden injuries left by the lightning tribulation were slowly healing. Although the healing was slow, it was indeed happening. Spirit Cat was having a hard time digesting that the injuries that even her self-healing ability could not heal were showing signs of healing in this peculiar place. Spirit Cat took a long, deep breath, suppressing the shock in her heart. She realized that this strange place she had arrived in was quite terrifying. Because, as she looked up, a colossal figure, leaning lazily against the tree that resembled an ox, gazing intently on a nearby stone stele, entered her sight. It was none other than Behemoth of Emperor Valley. At this moment, he seemed to be studying something, occasionally gesturing with his massive claws. The next moment, her gaze shifted again as she saw a platypus with deep red patterns like lava winding around its body in the distance, standing before another stone stele, its eyes flickering. The red-beaked platypus, also known as the red-beaked tyrant, was one of the most terrifying Tier 4 transcendents in Australia. What are they doing? Somewhat puzzled, Spirit Cat murmured to herself. They are learning divine abilities. Just as this voice rang in Spirit Cat's ears, her complexion changed slightly. As she subconsciously raised her guard, Spirit Cat astonishingly discovered a golden figure standing behind her at some point. Just then, seemingly aware of the Spirit Cat's vigilance, the Mermaid Queen, Elsa, smiled and explained, "I am the guardian of the Pocket of Vitality, Elsa." At this point, Elsa pointed to the distant Behemoth and Red Beak Beast, saying, "They are members of Master's Sentinel, codenamed Behemoth and Red Beak. The steels before them are divine abilities passed down by Master. For example, Behemoth is learning the divine ability, enlarging and shrinking at will. While Red Beak is learning the fire attribute divine ability, Feather Firestorm." Listening to Elsa's explanation, Spirit Cat gradually understood the situation before her. "So, as a member of the Sentinel, can I also learn divine abilities like them?" "Yes." Nodding slightly, Elsa pointed towards the end of the continent. Looking in the direction she pointed, Spirit Cat could indeed see several stone steels standing quietly at the end of the continent. "Here, you all can freely choose to learn divine abilities. However, it's best to specialize rather than generalize and choose one." As she finished speaking, Elsa glanced at Spirit Cat, and seemingly sensing something, she flashed a smile and stated, "Your old injuries have not healed. The priority is to recuperate. You can meditate by the Lake of Vitality daily, accelerating your recovery with its rich vitality. At the same time, you can come to me for an hour or two each day. I can sing the mermaid song for you, repairing the injuries to your soul." The mermaid song was Elsa's most eerie and mysterious ability. CIT not only could kill enemies but also heal wounds. Moreover, these wounds were not physical but rather the most mysterious type, soul injuries. That was why in the previous era, the Mermaid clan had close dealings with many powerful beings. After all, no strong individual could guarantee their soul would not be harmed, and the soul was precisely the most mysterious sector. It was very difficult to heal through ordinary means. Using the orthodox ways, only a few treasures and abilities could heal soul injuries. Among them, the Mermaid Song of the Merepeople Royal Clan was the most renowned. A look of complete bewilderment flashed on Spirit Cat's face. She could not find the words to refuse. With a few words, Elsa had already arranged everything for her like a butler. Not only did she arrange for the treatment of her old wounds, but she also chose a divine ability for her, minor divine ability, traveling 1,000 miles like the wind. It significantly increases speed and allows one to merge into the wind, making movement incredibly elusive. This was one of the minor divine abilities left by Golden Monkey, prepared for the younger generation of Misty Mountains. As of now, there were no less than 10 inheritance of divine abilities in the entire Pocket of Vitality. Among them, Wuxia had passed down several elemental divine abilities. Divine abilities were different from unique abilities. They were an extraordinary power displayed through constant cultivation of one's form and spirit. Compared to individual unique abilities, divine abilities were tens or even hundreds of times more complex. However, this complexity didn't mean divine abilities have no benefits. The greatest advantage of divine abilities was that they could be passed down. For example, Wuxia's unique ability, Immortal Mist, could not be taught to others. Other creatures would find it difficult to produce white mist and even harder to control it as Wuxia could. But divine abilities were different. For instance, Wuxia's fire attribute divine ability, Feather Firestorm, could be mastered as long as one had an understanding of fire and could grasp the principles behind it. This was why divine abilities were more valuable than unique abilities. Each divine ability could be continuously perfected as it passed down through generations. Now, the stone steel left in the Pocket of Vitality, though recording few divine abilities, each hold their unique wonders. If these mutant beasts could master them, it would greatly enhance their combat power. After all, their future battlefield was the starry sky. Wuxia would not treat them unfairly. In addition to imparting divine abilities, they were allowed to refine their bodies by the Lake of Vitality. When necessary, they could also go to the Pocket of Lightning to remove or refine impurities. One could say, from the moment these beings became members of UZU Sentinels, their treatment was no less than that of the core members of Misty Mountains. The results are evident. Take Behemoth for example. In recent days, its gray iron-colored fur had gradually transitioned to a greenish hue, indicating it was evolving towards a more advanced form, Bronze Behemoth. South of Australia, Mount Warning. As night fell, the ocean took on a mysterious allure. A bright moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the sea, replacing the noble golden shimmer of the sun with elegant and playful silver gray, jumping and dancing across the waves. Splash, splash, apart from the occasional crashing of waves, everything was serene. However, suddenly, hiss, hiss, sudden shrill hisses, like coming from ancient times, echoed from the depths of the sea. "It's coming," murmuring to himself, a several-meter-tall white tiger, majestic and powerful, with sleek lines and fluttering white fur, slowly stood up on the peak of Mount Warning. Boom! A pair of wings, resembling dragon wings, unfurled fiercely, sending waves after waves of ripples across the sea. This was the rhythm of a storm, the might of a natural disaster. At this moment, if one looked towards the sea, they would definitely see ripples spreading thousands of meters away. "Let me see how much you've grown," a smug smile appeared on White Tiger's face, feeling a sense of pride. As the third great beast, he was a true elder figure in Misty Mountains. Young creatures like Slytherin were merely juniors in his eyes. Now, having broken through to Tier 4, felt that it was a rare chance to show off. Yet, in a sudden twist, White Tiger's expression changed, simply because he sensed an ominous, cold, and terrifying aura approaching. The presence sent shivers down his spine, making him feel like prey before a predator. This aura. Muttering in doubt, a puzzled look appeared on White Tiger's face, not because of the terrifying presence, but because he found the presence familiar. Suddenly, White Tiger's corners of eyes twitched as a realization dawned upon him. It can't be. As soon as his words fell, the sea surface shook violently. Immediately after, a massive shadow covering hundreds of square meters rose from the water, bringing a peculiar expression on White Tiger's face. "Third brother," a voice, both excited and joyful, filled the air, accompanied by a strong, pungent smell. "Damn!" With a startled exclamation, White Tiger watched in disbelief as not one, not two, but 8 large, bluish-green dragon heads approached. Staring into those 8 pairs of crimson eyes, resembling red lanterns, White Tiger felt his body stiffen as a chilling fear crept over him. Even his pupils dilated in shock. This was the terror of Slytherin's unique ability, the fear stare. Even an inadvertent look would instill fear, let alone a simultaneous stare from 8 pairs of eyes. White Tiger was frozen, the hair of his fur stood on their root ends, and large drops of sweat appeared on his face. After some unknown time of deathly silence, a voice, tinged with resentment, broke the stillness. "Do you know, you nearly scared me to death. I swear, if you weren't my junior, I'd have pinned you down and beaten you." Amidst the grumbling, White Tiger glanced repeatedly at the enormous body of Slytherin. Good heavens, he is comparable to Titan and Tundra. What baffled White Tiger even more was that this junior, Slytherin, had also reached Tier 4. Shocked, White Tiger decisively turned around and headed towards the desert. Damn, what a loss of face. Originally intending to impress his junior, White Tiger had not anticipated that Slytherin's arrival would frighten him so much that he would break out in a sweat. This won't do, it's time to slip away. Swiftly heading towards the direction of the desert, White Tiger set the pace. Not far away, watching White Tiger quickly depart, Slytherin was somewhat puzzled. However, hesitation was not his nature. His spiritual energy surged as his entire body started slithering like a snake, smoothly gliding across the continent. Along the way, boom, 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 like a bulldozer, chaos was left in his wake, surpassing the ferocity of even rampaging beasts. Even White Tiger could not help but look away, his eyes twitching uncontrollably. Just from the sheer momentum of Slytherin's travel made White Tiger feel inferior. It seems another monstrosity has appeared, Ruhur, accompanied by a long roar, a white streak of light descended from the sky. Seeing this, Ruhur, Ruhur, screech, screech. Amidst the successive roars and howls, mutant beasts such as Nine Tails and Bull Demon, returned one after another. Their return was naturally followed by a round of greetings. However, one noteworthy point was that Slytherin's breakthrough to Tier 4 had indeed stimulated many mutant beasts. The core of Misty Mountain like Bull Demon and Thorns, after brief greetings, promptly returned to the depths of space pockets. Shortly after, Wuxia sensed vast spiritual fluctuations across several spaces within the 9 realms of heaven. These fellows are making themselves at home in my space. Breathing a sigh, a smile could not help but appear on Wuxia's face. As I expected, Slytherin's breakthrough is quite the catalyst. It's for the best. This will prevent the mutant beasts from becoming lazy. After exchanging greetings with Slytherin, Wuxia arranged for him to be in the Pocket of Vitality. As of now, the best place for Slytherin in Misty Mountains was as a sentinel. Spreading despair, instilling fear, and thus continually growing, this was the correct way for Slytherin to evolve. Of course, there was not any concern about Slytherin's safety. Although the Sentinels were Wuxia's main force for conquering the starry sky, Wuxia also cherished them and won't discard them. However, just then, as if realizing something, Wuxia also summoned Dream Beast. Master, greeting softly, a sleek and agile black body, reminiscent of a noble horse, with a singular black horn on his forehead, walked slowly. Dream Beast was the leader among Wuxia's 108 generals capable of entering dreams, wandering between the border of dream and reality. In terms of strangeness, Dream Beast definitely ranked high in Misty Mountains. However, Wuxia had never had a good arrangement for Dream Beast. The reason being, Wuxia could not find a suitable role for Dream Beast. However, now, he had found one. With this in mind, Wuxia glanced at the nearby Dream Beast, who was bowing respectfully, and stated, "From now on, you will partner with Slytherin." Saying this, Wuxia briefly explained Slytherin's abilities to him. In other words, Master wants me to weave nightmares for Slytherin to absorb. If those are your wishes, I'll do my best to fulfill them. Nodding slightly, Wuxia added, "With Slytherin's current strength, it's enough to ensure your safety. You two, one light and one dark, can become the perfect partners." Indeed. After a moment of contemplation, Dream Beast also came to the same realization. Soon after, following Wuxia's arrangement, he headed towards the Pocket of Vitality. Thud, 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 galloping in the air, flickering between dream and reality, Dream Beast quietly disappeared before the eyes of the mutant beasts. The return of Slytherin was quite a boon for Wuxia. At the very least, he now had a guaranteed top-tier natural disaster class combatant. Moreover, it's worth mentioning that after a brief stay in the desert, Dark Dragon, Ned, also chose to leave. Though they were friends, Dark Dragon's pride clearly would not allow him to follow Wuxia like a subordinate. Wuxia did not mind this. He simply left a message. "If you ever need help, you can call upon me using a segment of my cosmic root left in the depths of the desert." Dropping this sentence, Wuxia did not remain for long. He withdrew his mutant beasts back into their respective space pockets, before his spiritual energy surged and he traveled to another continent using his cosmic root as a medium. Africa, an ancient continent, was renowned for its rich variety of wildlife and large numbers even before the advent of the era of transcendence. According to human knowledge known to Wuxia, Africa boasted large ungulate mammals, about 90 species, and freshwater fishes, over 2,000 species, more than any other continent. Wuxia was very curious about what had happened to such a continent after several waves of spiritual energy tides. Wuxia would not be too surprised if this continent was overrun by mutant beasts like Australia. Unfortunately, unlike other continents, the African continent was completely isolated. Even Wuxia could not find any useful intelligence from it. All he knew was that on the day of Sea Clan invasion, an ancient humanoid figure walked out bathed in golden light. It's really a mysterious continent. With a light chuckle, Wuxia's figure disappeared into the depths of the void. Meanwhile, in a corner of Africa, pitch black and where nothing was visible. However, by no means, it was peaceful. Rohar, rohar, roars of fierce beasts shook the mountains and rivers, making all the trees tremble and leaves rustle. These were no ordinary roars. Compared to ordinary mutant beasts, these terrifying roars were ancient and eerie, and carried an extra touch of prehistoric aura, resembling that of atavistic mutant beasts. Right at that moment, swoosh, a powerful gust of wind blew past as a large black covered the sky, blocking the faint starlight, plunging the area into deeper darkness. Looking closely, it was an incredibly large bird, so massive that it blocked out the sky. Its eyes, like two blood moons, shone fiercely in the darkness. Screech, with a fierce cry, the giant bird flapped its wings, preparing to soar into the sky. However, right at that very moment, a tier 3 blood moon bird, and one so large, with a cry of delight, a figure suddenly appeared in the night. It was a robust young man, as strong as a tiger, in animal skins, with bronze skin and fluttering black hair, and bright eyes flickering with a sharp gleam. In a moment, the young man grabbed a long spear made from the bones of an unknown giant beast from his back. Go to hell. With a roar, the spear trembled as terrifying spiritual energy gathered on its tip. With a swoosh, like a shooting star, the spear shooting into the sky. Squish, as the spear pierced through the flesh, a sorrowful cry echoed through the sky. However, at that moment, in the stunned gaze of the blood moon bird, a figure leapt from the ground, soaring 100 meters high. If I catch it, the village won't have to worry about food for a few days. Shouting in a slightly excited voice, the young man clenched his fist and punched the giant bird's head hard. So, this is what Africa is like now. Amidst a soft mutter, a willow tree over 10 meters tall swayed gently near a segment of cosmic root not far away. He had not expected this continent to be like this. Humans fighting mutant beasts bare-handed, how interesting. Smirking, Wuxia narrowed his eyes. Race, mutant human. Bloodline, barbarian bloodline, one of the oldest bloodlines. Each member is comparable to a wild beast, possessing unparalleled physical strength and power. Innate ability, barbarian totem, complex patterns appear on the body like tattoos, bestowing the barbarian with tremendous power. Taking a deep look, Wuxia noticed a blood-red pattern resembling a bear's head on the right arm of the human, no, the barbarian. Currently, these patterns were glowing faintly with red light, which invisibly enhanced the barbarian's strength. Bear totem, greatly enhances strength and significantly boosts defense. What a strange race, muttering softly, Wuxia commented. Just then, a voice suddenly echoed in the air, I didn't expect actual barbarians to appear. Oh. Are the barbarians well known? With some curiosity, Wuxia glanced at the golden monkey, who had walked out from the space pocket. Yes. Nodding slightly, the golden monkey explained, the barbarians are considered a race derived from the humans, similar to the division of black and white people in this world. However, unlike most weak humans, the barbarians are definitely a naturally born warrior race. Powerful physiques, terrifying strength, excellent combat awareness, all of these traits make countless races deeply remember them. Listening quietly, Wuxia could not help but sigh internally. He had not expected the barbarians to earn such high praise from Golden Monkey. However, now was clearly not the time for contemplation. Glancing at the nearing end of the battle in the distance, Wuxia's eyes narrowed slightly. He directly commanded, Slytherin, it's your turn this time. Hiss, hiss, with sudden hisses, Slytherin grew excited. Then, boom, with a thunderous roar, a green vortex suddenly manifested under the stunned gazes of the young man and the blood moon bird in the distance, before it started to rotate slowly. What's that? In doubt, the young man, who had hammered the blood moon bird to the ground, stood up slowly from its body, staring solemnly at the green vortex. For some reason, a sense of foreboding surged in his heart. A hiss echoed, shaking the night sky. Immediately, in the horrified eyes of the young barbarian, a dragon head, ferocious and terrifying, carrying the stench of the ocean, suddenly emerged from the depths of a green vortex. Just looking at it made the young barbarian shudder. That soul-freezing coldness coursing through his body made his hands and feet instantly go numb. However, right at this moment, hiss, 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 one hiss after another shook the sky. Much to the young barbarian's shock and dismay, the dragon heads bypassed him and attacked the bloodthirsty bird beneath his feet. Crunch, crunch, consecutive heart-wrenching crunching sounds echoed as the several dragon heads plunged their teeth into the ferocious bird. Asterisk screech, asterisk with an almost absolutely miserable wail, blood splattered in all directions, painting the young man red. At this moment, the young barbarian dared not move, because, in just an instant, the powerful bird had been torn apart by the monster emerging from the green vortex. Each snake head, resembling a dragon head, was devouring large chunks of flesh, with thick blood kept dripping down their gaping jaws. Drip, drip, staining the ground red, causing the young barbarian's heart to tremble. What kind of monster is this? Just feeling its overwhelming murderous aura, the young barbarian lost the will to resist. Moreover, whenever one of the monster's heads glanced at him, his body froze as if turned to ice. At that moment, not to mention spiritual energy, he felt even his body was not his own. A light chuckle suddenly echoed in the air, "Leave this young barbarian to me." At the drop of these words, the air suddenly shimmered with a colorful glow. Then, as the colorful glow rippled spread, a look of confusion flashed in the young man's eyes. At the same time, a five-colored flower quietly bloomed deep within his eyes. In the distance, looking at the now enthralled young man, Wuxia thanked with a grin, "Thank you, Aurora." "No problem." With a laughter as melodious as the chimes of silver bell, Aurora stated with a yawn, "Master, I'm going back to sleep, I'm a bit tired." Go ahead." Nodding, Wuxia gave his agreement. Unlike other mutant beasts, the metamorphosis of the Aurora was slow and long, requiring a long time to absorb and digest to grow. This was why Aurora was still in slumber. However, when necessary, Wuxia would summon Aurora to do some errands. Like now, using Aurora's ever-growing psychic power to control the young barbarian, thereby gaining insights into the entire continent. Nine Tails, go inquire about the distribution of forces on this continent from the young barbarian, and also find out the positions of the top experts. "Yes, Master," promptly replying, Nine Tails quietly emerged from the night. After instructing Nine Tails, Wuxia did not delay any further. Boom, 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 spiritual energy surged as vortex after vortex opened up in the depths of the night sky. Except for the pocket of life, pocket of void, and pocket of mist, the other 6 space pockets were all opened. At the same time, roar, 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 screech, 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 roars and screeches filled with air, and the ground started shaking, as mutant beasts emerged from the depths of vortices glowing with different colors, one after another. They marched in an orderly manner, like a surging river extending endlessly into the night. Terrifying auras shot into the night sky ceaselessly, triggering spiritual energy storms. It was both terrifying and shocking. It was as if they were announcing their arrival to the entire continent. This was the Natural Disaster Legion under Wuxia's command, standing proudly, having killed no less than 1 million beings in just a month in Australia. Really looking forward to seeing if there are any formidable characters on this continent. With a grin, White Tiger spread his wings and shot towards a certain direction. Beside it, Golden Ant and Sarcosuchus silently led their troops in other directions. Centered on Yuziyu, all directions needed to be swept clean. Of course, there were likely no formidable characters nearby, otherwise, with Yuziyu's power, they would have already been eliminated. In other words, this should be the edge of the continent, not yet near the territory of truly powerful mutant beasts. At this moment, having descended upon this continent, Yuziyu slowly took root. Rumble, rumble, with fearsome tremors shaking the ground, Yuziyu's roots extended continuously, slithering deeper into the ground like giant pythons. Yuziyu's roots grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths, they had spread to a distance of 10 kilometers, and were still continuously spreading deeper and wider. There are actually 2 untouched spirit stone mines nearby. Yuziyu spoke in a somewhat surprised voice. Having spirit stone mines was not surprising, but finding untouched spirit stone mines was astonishing. Pursing his lips into a smile, Yuziyu looked in the direction where his roots had sensed the spirit stone mine. One was an earth attribute spirit stone mine, the other a fire attribute spirit stone mine. Both were small spirit stone mine. Nonetheless, they were sufficient for Yuziyu. These 2 spirit stone mines were enough to expand both the pocket of earth and the pocket of fire by several kilometers. Many a little makes a mickle. If enough spirit stone mines could be found, my goal of a 100,000 meters wide space would no longer be distant. With this in mind, Yuziyu calmed his thoughts and continued to spread his roots. At the same time, amidst thunderous quakes and rumbles, a giant tree rose from the ground with extremely long branches like divine chains, tearing through the sky. The trunk grew thicker and longer by every moment and every second. In just a moment, under the horrified and dazed gazes of the nearby barbarian tribes, as well as mutant beasts, a giant tree, piercing the sky and covering the stars and moon, stood tall. "What's this?" In a voice filled with disbelief, the high priest of a nearby tribe, the Bear Barbarian tribe, walked out from the stone house, leaning on a cane. One by one, tribesmen clad in beast skins also emerged from their respective stone houses. "It looks like a tree. Are you kidding? How could there be such a huge tree?" Amidst the discussions, the tribesmen looked at each other in astonishment. But before they could discuss any further, rohur, rohur, rohur. Deafening roars shook the sky as the ground began to tremble. Immediately afterward, giant bears, as white as snow, galloping wildly on the ground, entered the Bear Barbarian tribe's sight, their icy claws tearing the earth apart. Their figures were so terrifying that their running figures looked like trains charging towards them. Furthermore, amidst their terrifying roars, their eyes turned red and a chilling killing intent filled the air, so cold that it caused frost to appear. Invasion, regardless of the reason, good or bad, destined the invaders for bloodshed and slaughter simply because they were outsiders. And Yuziyu and his companions had no good intentions upon their arrival. Plunder, and plunder. From start to finish, Yuziyu and his companions' goal was plunder. From seizing resources from villages and towns to plundering resources from continents and even the world. Now, everything Yuziyu was doing was to get his natural disaster legion accustomed to the role of invaders. If invasion and being invaded were predestined, then Yuziyu would undoubtedly choose invasion. Anyone who resists, except for women and children, can be slaughtered without mercy. Roaring, the deputy chief of the Polar Bear clan, one of the 3 top clans of Misty Mountains, had already issued orders to each clan member. "Yes, Deputy Chief." Responding in return, hundreds of mutant polar bears began to charge. Although there were only a few hundred, they resembled an army of thousands, trampling the ground with weights of tens of tons. Their sharp claws tore through the earth. Rohar, giving a roar towards the sky, the first polar bear to reach the Bear Barbarian tribe had its spiritual energy surge. At the same time, its snow-like fur froze, transforming into sharp spikes. The polar bear clan predominantly possessed ice attributes. Because of this, many mutant polar bears of the white bear clan were skilled in using the ice armor, which could freeze their bodies, greatly enhancing their defense and impact force. Boom, accompanied by a thunderous crash, a stone house several meters high shattered instantly. Following that, boom, 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 one crash after another reverberating through the sky, countless stone houses were smashed by these mutant polar bears. Pieces of rocks flew everywhere, mixed with blood. No, don't. Help, please. Cries of fear and despair filled the air as numerous members of the bear barbarian tribe issued pleas for help. Yet, whether by intention or coincidence, the impact of these mutant polar bears mainly aimed to destroy the stone houses, sparing most of the women and children inside. This was as Wuxia had instructed. Unlike other worlds, Wuxia regarded this world more as his own. In his opinion, everything belonged to him. And therefore, he regarded the entire world as his farm. And a farm naturally could not be exploited recklessly. Of course, Wuxia did not completely adhere to this rule and he admitted it. In the event his or his companion's personal safety was threatened, Wuxia would not mind his mutant beasts unleashing their killing instincts. All rules were based on the premise of ensuring their own safety. That would always be the top priority, over everything else. Stop right there. Bastards. I'll kill you. With bloodshot eyes, one barbarian warrior after another rushed out. Their spiritual energy surged as the totems on their bodies flickered. Some of the warriors even summoned the phantom of a giant black bear behind them. This was the barbarian clan's unique totem technique. Unfortunately, facing one of the top clans, renowned even in Misty Mountains, all resistance was futile. With a thunderous clap, a Tier 3 barbarian was swatted tens of meters away by a Tier 3 mutant polar bear, only stopping after crashing through several stone houses. However, the moment his body came to a stop, his pupils could not help but shrink, because right at that very moment, the Tier 3 mutant polar bear slammed its paw into the ground with immense force. Zzzzz, amidst a continuous strange sound, a massive iceberg, dozens of meters tall, erupted from the ground, thrusting toward the barbarian warrior. I will kill you. At this moment, the barbarian warrior who had been swatted away stood up as if unscathed. Furthermore, seeing the approaching iceberg, the barbarian warrior advanced instead of retreating, charging towards it with his arms crossed like a tank. Boom, 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 shattering the iceberg continuously, a bloodied but increasingly ferocious figure of barbarian warrior advanced towards the mutant polar bear. This barbarian clan is indeed impressive, echoed a faint voice. Atop a mountain peak, White Tiger slowly rose and his eyes couldn't help but narrow, witnessing the battle below. Indeed, not only do they possess bodies strong and robust enough to confront our polar bear clan head-on, but they also have a fearless spirit, said Giant Lightning Bear, the deputy commander of the Legion of Lightning, with a grin and a gleam in his eyes. I'm quite looking forward to encountering a natural disaster-class warrior of this place. With a touch of anticipation, White Tiger gazed into the distance. This was just a small tribe of the barbarian clan. Extremely powerful individuals were unlikely to be present here. The entire bear barbarian tribe had only 3 Tier 3 transcendents, and one of them had already been controlled by Aurora. You'll encounter them, replied Giant Lightning Bear, his limbs flickering with lightning and a fiery battle spirit igniting in his eyes. Now, only natural disaster-class warriors could attract the attention of the various legions of Misty Mountains. For small tribes like this, they would not even garner attention if not for curiosity. Meanwhile, deep within this continent, boom, 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 like the beating of war drums, a deep, resonant sound echoed for kilometers around. Looking closely, there stood a city. However, it was different from human cities. It was ancient and vast. The so-called palace was actually constructed from massive stones piled together. In the distance, a towering city wall stood to the north of savannas. Its walls was dark red, seemingly stained with blood, exuding the vicissitudes of time. This was the beast-suppressing wall, the most famous wall of the barbarian clan. Over 3 years, it had withstood attacks of countless beast tides. It was said that beneath this wall were buried no less than 10 million mutant beasts. This was quite a terrifying number. However, it also indirectly proved the fearsome nature of this city. At this moment, in this most renowned imperial city of the barbarian clan, the war drums echoed, summoning the strong like the call of a war horn. The last time these war drums sounded, millions of beasts were charging towards the imperial city from the savannas. And now, these drums sounded once more. The enemy is here. Worse, it is an enemy we cannot easily withstand. A deep and resonant voice slowly emerged from the depths of the imperial city. Accompanying this was a sound. Thud, 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 like stepping on the chests of the people, the sound of footsteps slowly approached. Looking up, they saw a burly man holding a toothed club made from unknown beast bones. His black hair was fluttering along the wind, and his barbarian totems, resembling tattoos carved into his skin, were constantly flashing like. Upon closer inspection, within the flashing barbarian totem, one could see the small-sized ethereal figures of powerful mutant beasts such as lions, elephants, and rhinoceroses, roaring towards the sky. 3 years ago, during the invasion of the Sea Clan, the barbarian king awakened and welcomed back an ancient soul. Through this, he inherited the will that had led the barbarian clan to its current state. No one knows how powerful he was. Not long ago, dense and enormous gray-black clouds covered the entire imperial city, with lightning streaking across the sky like silver serpents, and claps of thunder shook the world. Yet, amid this apocalyptic scene, a massive shadow of a spiked mace, enlarged several dozen times, appeared in the depths of the imperial city, smashing into the gray-black clouds. Boom. With a thunderous explosion, the clouds dispersed, revealing the barbarian king standing silently atop the imperial city. It's been a long time since I've felt this shiver. In a deep and resonant voice, the barbarian king looked towards the distant south. There, he sensed a terrifying aura, oppressive and mysterious. Just sensing it made him shiver, not out of fear, but excitement. The barbarians are battle fanatic. This wasn't just a saying, especially for the barbarian king, the inheritor of the previous era. Come, fight with me to your heart's content. Whispering a command, the barbarian king began to move. Boom, with a thunderous clap, the ground instantly cracked, unable to bear his strength, while his burly and towering figure, wielding a spiked mace, zoomed towards the south. Although from afar, his figure appeared to be walking, his every step covered 1,000 meters, disappearing from the view of the barbarian clan in an instant. As soon as he vanished, swoosh, 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 several figures emerged from the imperial city, one after another. Unlike the terrifying presence of the barbarian king, their auras were slightly weaker, but they were undeniably tier 4 transcendent. They were the current top-tier experts of the most powerful clan of this continent, the barbarian clan. 4 natural disaster-class warriors upheld the strength of their faction. Apart from the barbarian king, there were 2 men and 1 woman, each extraordinarily talented. Their inner talents were on par with top-tier mutant beasts, and they possessed complete legacies. However, this clan had always been low-key, and in the last era, they were considered part of the human race. They had no desire to contend with the human race. If they had, the current dominance of the human race might be in question. Of course, the human race's dominance was merely on the surface. Many powerful clans had already risen in secret. The barbarian clan was just one of them, and perhaps the strongest out of them all. Let's go. It looks like there's going to be a fierce battle tonight. A fierce battle. With a bitter smile, the high priestess of the barbarian clan, also the saintess, tightened her grip on her bone staff. She possessed the ability to foresee disasters. Today, she had already predicted that the most terrifying force of another continent, and this world, would arrive on the African continent, a force that they could not stop or resist. But, the barbarian clan doesn't surrender. With a flash of determination in her eyes, the high priestess led the other two natural disaster-class warriors southward. Then, thump, 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 with synchronized footsteps, tens of thousands of barbarian warriors started to march, singing an ancient song of the barbarian clan. In ancient times, there were barbarians, and they were never destroyed. Today, there are barbarians, the legend lives on. The way of the barbarian. We fight, and fight only. As the barbarian clan came into action, other top entities on this continent also did not remain silent. Rohur, 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 with thunderous roars, the mutant lion clan, the kings of the savannah, started charging southward like berserkers. There were not many of them, just over 100, but each exuded an aura no less than a Tier 3 transcendent. Among them, the most terrifying aura was enough to make one's hair stand on end. The snow lion. Its long, pure white fur fluttered in the wind like snow. It moved as if flying on clouds, creating storms through the savannah as it galloped. This was the Snow Lion King, one of the mightiest kings of the savannah, a true natural disaster-class beast. In addition, the mutant elephant clan, known as tanks, were also on the move. Dozens of giant elephants, each towering 50 to 60 meters high, trumpeted towards the south. Moreover, the mutant ant clan, wolf clan, wild buffalo clan, all the continent's powerful clans felt the terrifying aura emanating from the south. One by one, their strong warriors emerged. If it were merely an ordinary threat, they might have ignored it. But the aura they sensed now was overwhelmingly terrifying, suffocating even for those at Tier 4. This was the aura that could only belong to a peak natural disaster class entity, a truly terrifying existence standing at the pinnacle of Tier 4. They simply could not ignore such a fearsome entity. If they did not unite, there would be no place for them on this continent. The aura they felt carried unrestrained malice, enough to make even Tier 4 transcendents shiver. Should I go or not? In a remote corner of the continent, a half-meter-long, pitch-black mutant snake, radiating with a faint and eerie glow, suddenly spoke like a human. This was the soaring snake, one of the most infamous vipers on the continent. Even before the era of the Transcendents, this viper was notorious. Not only did it attack other animals, but it also preyed on other venomous snakes. There were records of soaring snakes killing and devouring tree snakes, black mambas, and cobras. Terrifyingly, sometimes it would not even spare its own kind. And this dreadful viper had managed to grow into a Tier 4 transcendent. If people came to know about its existence, even Tier 4 transcendents might be restless. Now, casting a playful glance southwards, the mutant soaring snake hesitated for a moment before slowly moving its body. Whether to go or not wasn't important. Considering there would be plenty of its preferred prey, it seemed necessary to go. Are they here? Murmuring to himself, Wuxia, who had already taken root at the edge of the continent, looked around with a gleam in his eyes. As an openly acknowledged natural disaster class entity, he was truly a heaven and earth spirit tree. The fruits he bore could transform lower-level life forms into high-level elementals. And elementals were higher-order life forms that would step into Tier 4 upon reaching adulthood. They were just half a notch below the apex races like dragons. Moreover, his spirit essence could not only bring the dead back to life and regrow flesh on bones, but it could also temper the body. Even natural disaster class, aka Tier 4 transcendents, yearned for it. Not to mention, Wuxia's willow leaves and branches were all supreme materials for crafting divine weapons. Of course, the supreme treasure nurtured within his body was a heaven-defying artifact that could grant an extra life. In light of all this, it was easy to imagine what kind of existence Wuxia had become. To put it bluntly, if one could seize even 10 to 20% of the benefits from Wuxia, stepping into Tier 5 would just be a matter of time. Even Tier 6 would be within reach. Thus, it's not hard to understand why top-tier transcendents on the continent would go berserk one after another upon sensing Wuxia's aura. Heaven and earth treasures belonged to the designed ones. Firstly, because Wuxia's released aura was too terrifying. And the second reason? Naturally, it was because they coveted Wuxia's body. Wuxia would not deny this. Just as they greedily eyed him, he had his sights on them as well. As for the next, it was just a matter of strength. The strong would survive, while the defeated would either flee in disgrace or become captives. With this in mind, Wuxia raised his eyes, looked at the numerous mutant beasts already gathered around him, and ordered, "Send the legions out. As for you all, rest and recover well in preparation for the upcoming battle." "Yes, Master," responding, the natural disaster class commanders of the legions nodded. However, at this moment, as if sensing something, White Tiger suddenly frowned and stated in perplexity, "It seems there are quite a lot of strong ones." There was indeed quite a lot. It was no longer just a few powerful beasts like on the Australian continent. This time, White Tiger sensed no fewer than a dozen Tier 4 entities. Moreover, the number of strong ones was increasing at a visible rate. This did not mean that the combat power of the African continent far surpassed that of Australia. It was because Wuxia had intentionally kept a low profile in Australia. He had not released the aura of the Heaven and Earth Spirit Tree, thereby attracting only the belligerent and powerful creatures. Many of the Tier 4 transcendents had remained hidden. However, on this continent, with Wuxia intentionally releasing his aura, not to mention Tier 4 creatures, even some Tier 3 creatures who considered themselves strong wanted a piece of the action. Naturally, the number of strong ones that appeared far exceeded that of Australia. Indeed, there are quite a lot. Sensing the terrifying spiritual energy fluctuations rising from various corners of the continent, Nine Tails also could not help but slightly frown. Despite their terrifying individual combat power, they would be in a spot against too many enemies. More importantly, natural disaster class creatures were on a different level. Ordinary Tier 3 transcendents would be of no use. In other words, this would be a battle they would be fighting alone. With these thoughts in mind, Nine Tails furrowed her brows, suppressing her unease. She was not afraid of death. She was just worried about her master in case they lost. Hiya, with a sigh, a cold gleam flashed in Nine Tails' eyes as she gazed into the distance. At this moment, as if sensing the worries of the many mutant beasts, Wuxia reassured them, "Don't worry, do your best to hold them off and leave the remaining strong ones to me." As he spoke, a fervent light flickered deep in Wuxia's eyes. "It's been too long since I've truly taken action. I've almost forgotten what it felt like to fight. But today, I'm sure I'll be able to fight to my heart's content." With a smile, the slender figure seated atop the tree canopy showed a hint of eagerness. At this moment, what Wuxia did not notice was that among the horde of mutant beasts, several figures exchanged glances and tacitly withdrew. They were none other than Bull Demon, Thorns, and Titan. Among Wuxia's 9 great beasts, they were already at the peak of Tier 3, just a step away from reaching Tier 4. Sensing the urgency of the situation, they too wanted to contribute. And how would they contribute? By breaking through to Tier 4, of course. Only by truly stepping into Tier 4 would they be qualified to participate in a battle of this level. Hiya, taking a long, deep breath, with a deep breath, the fiendish bull demon, the bull-headed humanoid creature, walked steadily toward the pocket of lightning. The pocket of lightning was one of the most terrifying space pockets controlled by Wuxia. Lightning wove through the sky like divine chains, with bolts of lightning tearing through the heavens. The deeper one ventured, the stronger was the power of the lightning. Rumor had it that at the very end, the terrifying lightning could even harm those of Tier 4. Such terrifying lightning was an excellent place for body refining. Gritting his teeth, Bull Demon swallowed more than half a bottle of life essence. This was the life-saving treasure Wuxia had given him over time. He had always been reluctant to use it, but now, he did not hesitate to use it. I will definitely break through to Tier 4. The next moment, Bull Demon's spiritual energy surged as a purple halo enveloped Bull Demon, distorting the surrounding light. Meanwhile, in the pocket of earth, there was a piece of land completely red. This was where blood spirit grass was cultivated. Blood spirit grass was an extremely bloody spirit plant that derived nutrients from blood. Nourished by the blood of fallen transcendents on the battlefield, blood spirit grass was thriving in this vast stretch of land. Among them, there were quite a few Tier 3 spirit grasses. And now, tap, 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 with each step, the color of blood blossomed, and thorns sprouted around the blood spirit grass. Next, in this blood-red garden, a figure with blood-red hair and a blood-colored dress, Thorns, licked her lips. If breaking through is just a matter of time, then let me break through quickly. As she murmured, blood-colored spiritual energy gathered around Thorns, forming a blood-colored gore-fiend flood dragon over 30 meters long. Roar! A dragon-like roar reverberated through the pocket of earth, and the countless blood spirit grasses around Thorns started swaying. Faintly, one could see the blood mist rise from the blood spirit grass, converging towards the figure at the center of the blood garden, making the gore-fiend flood dragon even more solid. Time passed slowly, and the atmosphere around Uziyu became increasingly oppressive. However, just then, Uziyu suddenly paused, sensing something. It was because he felt some disturbances in several of his space pockets. What's this? Surprised, Uziyu shifted his consciousness to investigate his various space pockets. In the pocket of lightning, a lightning storm raged within a dense expanse of dark clouds. Continuous flashes of lightning lit up the entire dark sky, making it as bright as daylight, growing more intense and radiant with each passing moment. Following the glow of the lightning, Uziyu saw a fiendish humanoid figure with the head of a bull. Its face twisted in pain, teeth gritted, as it trudged deeper into the pocket of lightning. Crackle, a bolt of lightning sliced through the air, searing across Bull Demon's back like a sharp blade. A hand-width, 2-meter long, nearly bone-deep charred wound appeared on Bull Demon's back, sparking with visible tiny arcs of electricity. However, before the wound could worsen, a surge of vitality surged across Bull Demon's back before the wound started to heal visibly. But the next moment, crackle, another bolt of lightning struck before his previous wound could even fully heal, causing Bull Demon's body to shudder violently, creating another wound on his back. He is really pushing himself, Uziyu muttered helplessly but did not intervene. This was Bull Demon's choice. And Bull Demon must have some confidence in making this choice. After all, he was not weak, and he wielded the mysterious power of gravity. Even among Tier 3, he was considered a top-level transcendent. If not for his lack of awakened bloodline, he would have already broken through to Tier 4. With a sigh, Uziyu shifted his gaze to the space pocket where Thorns was. Unlike Bull Demon's violent breakthrough, Thorns' approach was more about accumulation. Constantly absorbing blood energy, eventually triggering a qualitative change from a quantitative one. She is quite clever. Uziyu smiled, then finally turned his gaze to Titan. Titan, as the eighth great beast under Uziyu, was relatively obscure. Although he was extremely violent and possessed astonishing combat power, he was often overshadowed by his massive build. However, now, lying quietly in the depths of the pocket of earth, Uziyu could clearly sense Titan's blood seemingly burning, with an indescribable fluctuation surging through him. What is this? With a hint of curiosity, Uziyu cast a deep scrutinizing gaze on him. However, after a moment, as if sensing something, he gave up exploring, simply because a formidable enemy had arrived. Roar! Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoed at the distant horizon, surging across with a stretching wave of dust cloud. Upon closer inspection, it was not just a wave of dust, but a wave of dust pushed off by a storm. It was vast and terrifying, surging towards them like a tsunami. So, it's the mutant lions. murmured Yuziyu, noticing the silhouettes resembling a lion's occasionally amidst the rolling dust waves, as if a furious lion charging forward. This was the might of a tier for transcendent. Its terrifying power affected the surroundings, even stirring up dust storms. Judging by the long mane dancing along the wind, it should be a male lion. In its unruly aura, there is an indescribable aura of dominance. Not to mention, its occasional roar like thunder, is causing mutant beasts to shudder. Yuziyu smiled. He was not too concerned. Although this was a natural disaster-class entity, it posed no threat to him. Moreover, there was already a powerful entity ready to handle this lion. Rohur, another thunderous roar filled with fury echoed through the sky, seemingly displeased by the lion's challenge to its majesty. Immediately, under the mocking gazes of Nine Tails and the other mutant beasts, White Tiger spread his wings, with a wingspan of 10 meters, blocking out the sky and creating a thunderous turbulence in the air. His pair of cold beastly eyes stared fixedly into the distance. Lions and tigers rarely encountered each other. One was the king of the plains, the other the king of the forest. However, in the era of the Transcendence, these two apex predators on the food chain finally began to truly clash. Where did this trash come from, daring to challenge Master? With a disdainful voice, White Tiger flapped his wings, stirring a storm with a thunderous boom. At the same time, Rohur, one after another, tigers following him stood up, coldly gazing northward. Kill! With a roar, the second in command of the Tiger clan, Dark Tiger, shot towards the north first. Upon seeing this, numerous mutant tigers of varied shape and sizes began their charge. Their terrifying momentum was not one bit less than the dust storm rising in the north. Even more chilling was the vertical pupil on White Tiger's forehead, which, as it half opened and half closed, flashed with an air of majesty. Go to hell! With a roar, a golden light suddenly cut through the air, heading straight for the dust storm. Swoosh, the golden light flashed and disappeared, leaving a streak of blood in the dust storm. The next moment, a roar filled with fury reverberated through the sky, causing the corners of other mutant beasts' eyes to twitch. Clearly, the ruler of the savannah, the Lion King, had been truly enraged by White Tiger. I'm really looking forward to the clash between the lion and the tiger. With a smile, Nine Tails' eyes also showed a hint of amusement. However, she did not worry. The mutant lion was indeed terrifying. However, if it had no deeper trump card, its defeat was already certain. Others might not know, but how could she not? The current White Tiger was truly the fiend beast in the most genuine sense. He was far stronger than an ordinary tier for transcendent. Just then, as if sensing something, Nine Tails' gaze suddenly shifted, looking towards the northeast. Trumpeting, hordes of giant elephants were charging towards their direction, like tanks. Their trunks were so long that they reached towards the sky. Their gray skin was covered in cuticles that looked like scales. Their pair of tusks, as white as jade, glinted with a cold gleam. They were war elephants, a terrifying type of evolved elephants that were born for war. They could trigger earthquakes with the stamp of their hooves. Their tusks could tear through any defense. And most terrifying was their charge, able to shake even the walls of the barbarian imperial city. They were a terrifying race, born for war in every sense. The herd of war elephants looked quite ferocious. Watching from afar, the terrifying momentum stirred by hundreds of war elephants was enough to make even the powerful mutant beasts like Nine Tails narrow their eyes. It was terrifying, and not just ordinarily terrifying. Hundreds of war elephants resembled an army, with each elephant no less than an ordinary Tier 3 transcendent. A single Tier 3 titanic beast would already be a daunting challenge for an average Tier 3 transcendent. And now, hundreds of war elephants were charging towards them. Even the ground seemed to be trembling in fear. Who will handle such war machines? A cold yet somber voice echoed in the air. Looking towards the source, everyone saw the cold gaze of Golden Ant, standing with his arms crossed and a hint of bloodthirstiness in his eyes. I will, chuckling, Golden Monkey standing atop a peak narrowed his eyes. However, just as Golden Monkey's words fell, the mutant beasts suddenly looked towards a vortex, the yellowish-brown vortex, seemingly sensing something. As it spun, the yellowish-brown color kept expanding. Right then, seemingly feeling that the expansion of the vortex was too slow, a pair of black-furred claws emerged from inside, before pulling it apart. With the sound of space tearing, the entire yellowish-brown vortex shook violently before suddenly expanding several times. At this moment, the owner of the black-furred claws was gradually revealed. It was a King Kong, a royal of the chimpanzee clan, the strongest clan of Misty Mountains, known as the warrior race. Such small fry aren't worth troubling you, my lords. With a cold laugh, the massive figure slowly stepped out of the pocket of earth. Meng Yu, the deputy of the chimpanzee clan, second only to the leader of chimpanzee clan. As Meng Yu emerged from the pocket of earth, one chimpanzee after another followed after him. There were a total of 22 King Kongs. Each one was as gigantic as a high-rise building, with mounds like bulging muscles. However, the most noteworthy was the black armor on their bodies, gleaming faintly with cold sheen. Black tortoise armor, the battle armor only worn by the royal family of the chimpanzee clan. Its defense aside, it was a symbol of honor. And now, 22 King Kongs stood in a line, silently watching the distance, their eyes filled with brutality and disdain. Surprisingly, their eyes were filled with disdain looking at the fierce mob of giant war elephants charging towards them. In their opinion, while the war elephants might look fierce, they were lacking in discipline. They regarded them as nothing more than a disorganized mob. Merely outwardly strong but internally weak. They were far inferior to the special forces trained in the hellish ways of the humans. Your objective is to eliminate them, giving a simple command. Meng Yu raised his hand. However, the raising of his hand was more of a tactical command. And this was because, as Meng Yu waved his hand, the King Kongs divided into 4 by 4 files, with 6 King Kongs guarding the outer circle. Immediately after, the ground shook violently with thunderous rumbles. Their synchronized footsteps formed a single, thunderous sound, pounding hard on the chests of Nine Tails and the other mutant beasts. Moments later, before they could react. Kill! A cold shout echoed through the night sky, and the 22 figures moved as one, disappearing into the night in an instant. Despite their enormous size, they were as swift as agile monkeys. They moved through the forest at high speed without stirring up any wind. It was an unimaginable display of agility. This was the strongest clan of Misty Mountain, the King Kong royal family. Well, alright, I take back what I said earlier. Our guys are even more ferocious. Shaking her head helplessly, a wry smile flashed on Nine Tails' face. Compared to the war elephants, even a fool could see the terrifying power of the King Kongs. Everyone could not help but admit that these elites, trained in the hellish ways of the humans, were indeed formidable. Their combat power likely far exceeded what they had shown, because their understanding of combat was not limited to spiritual energy and physical strength. They focused more on technique and coordination. Indeed, nodding in agreement, Golden Ant also acknowledged this. I guess, with these warriors taking action, there is no need for me to intervene. However, right at that moment, as if recalling something, Golden Ant asked, where is their leader, Dark King? I heard he's recuperating. Recuperating, murmuring, Golden Ant understood. It looks like that monster has silently broken through to Tier 4. I wonder where he had made this breakthrough for it to go unnoticed. At this time, deep within the pocket of earth, a cold figure stood silently. At his feet, the luminous earth attribute spirit stones were dimming at a frightening speed. However, before these spirit stones could fade, more were transported in by chimpanzees. The reason these chimpanzees worked so hard, was simply because the 2 to 3 meter tall figure before them was their leader, Dark King. Dark King had a very low presence in Misty Mountains. Originally, he was over 30 meters tall, but after breaking through to Tier 4, his size dramatically changed. The more spirit stones he absorbed, the smaller he became, reaching the current height of 2 to 3 meters. However, even so, this figure caught Yu's attention. If concentration was essence, then Dark King's concentration was a miracle. His jet black fur, resembling long hair, draped over his shoulders. His entire body, except for his head, chest, and hands, was covered in black fur, which shimmered with a faint blackish glow under the flow of spiritual energy. And now, if one looked at his face, they would see a cold, human-like visage, yet more defined, still retaining traces of a chimpanzee with some black fur. This was the current Dark King, the deeper evolution of the chimpanzee clan following the King Kong lineage. Yu referred to their evolution as superevolution. Similar to human evolution, which originated from ancient forest apes, the chimpanzee clan, also known as ape men, continuously evolved towards the direction of humans. However, compared to the long evolutionary process of humans over millions of years, the evolution of the chimpanzee clan was completed in just a few short years. And when Dark King stepped into Tier 4, this evolution reached its pinnacle. It almost surpassed all the millions of years of human evolution. Thus, a race almost comparable to humans emerged. However, considering that currently only Dark King existed, Yu did not give this race a name. However, one thing was certain, at this moment, Dark King was equivalent to another kind of human. If humans had spent millions of years getting used to intelligence and forgetting how to fight, then Dark King, constantly evolving within the chimpanzee clan, represented another direction for humans: combat, constant combat. Born for nothing but combat. Innately much stronger than humans, but with a simple mind. Just like humans say, all brawn no brain. Dark King represented the epitome of this saying. Hiya, taking a long, deep breath, Dark King slowly raised his head. His beastly ice-cold pupils gleamed with a blood-like red glow. Master, I'm almost ready, stated Dark King, tightening his fist. Immediately a burst of white circular waves spread around his fist, as if he had squeezed the air until it burst. Is that so? In response, Yu's figure slowly emerged. Countless roots grew out from the ground, continuously intertwining together, eventually weaving into a humanoid figure. Quietly observing the current Dark King, Yu could not help but narrow his eyes slightly. Although he had thought about it before, seeing this figure still shocked him. Because this was also a human, a completely new kind of human. If current humans were all intellectual, possessing well-developed minds, Dark King represented combativeness, with a naturally powerful physique, coupled with a sharp combat instinct like a wild beast. He was an unimaginable existence. A new human who almost symbolized the human race's primitive wildness and savagery had appeared, and as natural disaster class existence, a Tier 4 transcendent. At this moment, Yu was very much looking forward to it. If Dark King steps onto the continent and faces off against the humans, what kind of gaze would he be met with? Since the evolution millions of years ago, another species has evolved into humans. Evolved from a chimpanzee, already known for their belligerence and strength. Pursing his lips into a smile, Yu cut off a segment of his root. After a moment, to Dark King's surprise, Yu began to weave this segment of root continuously. Before long, a very delicate ring appeared in front of Dark King. This is a spirit ring woven from my root. It can help you calm your mind and prevent you from going berserk. The reason for doing this was that Yu noticed Dark King's current unstable state. If the battle became too intense, there was a high possibility of him reverting to his true form, a berserk natural disaster class giant chimpanzee. That was Dark King's animalistic nature, and his current humanoid form represented the sanity of Dark King. "Thank you, Master." Dark King accepted the ring with a slight bow. As he put it on his finger, a cool sensation washed over his heart, dispelling the rising ferocity. "Go now. Your clan needs you." Without delaying any more time, Wuxia gently waved his hand, creating a swirling vortex of yellowish-brown color. "Yes, Master," responded Dark King, taking a step forward. Just a moment later, whoosh, amidst the sudden uproar, this figure gradually blurred. Upon closer inspection, it was because his speed was too fast, leaving behind only an afterimage in his original place. Another terrifying race not belonging to the previous era, muttering to himself, Wuxia also glanced up at the sky. Vaguely, he could sense a pair of eyes quietly observing from above. At this moment, Wuxia's intuition proved correct, because, on this planet, no, it should be said, across the entire solar system, even the Milky Way, a pair of cold eyes flashed and disappeared in an instant. It was indifferent and merciless. Yet it felt like a divine presence, causing the entire starry sky to tremble. "Mother, is this also your doing?" An aged voice echoed through the starry expanse. The illusory shadow of a towering giant tree quietly appeared. With a resigned smile, the giant tree murmured once more. "To think that among the human race, such a terrifying warrior race would emerge. I wonder if this is a blessing or a curse. Well, this era is chaotic enough, one more race won't make much of a difference. Moreover, dividing the fortuity of the ancient first races like this is also a good thing." Meanwhile, at Wuxia's root location, whoosh, suddenly, a swooshing sound of something moving rapidly through the air, much like a sonic boom, erupted, accompanied by roaring sound waves and a violent storm. "What's going on? This aura." Crying in astonishment and doubt, mutant beasts, including even Golden Ant and Nine Tails, showed subtle changes in their expressions, because, in that moment, an unfamiliar aura shot into the sky. Adding more to the dread, when they looked towards the horizon, they saw a trail of dissipating white waves. In other words, a powerful being had just passed by them, and they noticed it just now. How is this possible? Realizing this point, Sarcosuchus's pupils contracted in shock and dismay. However, after a moment, as if confirming his suspicions, he stared fixedly towards the horizon, where the figure had appeared from, uttering an incredulous exclamation, "It's actually him." At Sarcosuchus' words, far away, amidst the flying dust and rocks, 22 King Kongs were blocking the charge of over 100 war elephants, forming a wall using their bodies. Boom. Amidst deafening clashes that sent fearsome tremors through the ground, the King Kong's figures trembled. Immediately, their muscles turned extremely hard and taut, as bulging veins, akin to sinuous dragons, intercrossed their arms. At the same time, they exerted fearsome strength through their arms as every King Kong grabbed a war elephant by their ivory-white tusks. Then, with a thunderous roar, the 50-meter-tall giant elephants were slowly lifted up, much to the astonishment of countless mutant beasts and even war elephants. The terrifying power was truly awe-inspiring. Yet, this was not the end. With a stomp of their feet, they exerted force around their waists, executing a 180-degree rotation. Then, boom, with a thunderous crash, some of the slightly smaller elephants were thrown into the distance. However, right at that moment, thud, the earth shook as the giant elephants stepped aside, clearing a long path. The next moment, a high-pitched trumpet reverberated through the sky. Looking towards the source, an elephant, smaller than the other elephants, entered the King Kong's and other mutant beasts' sight. It was just 20 meters tall, but its entire body was covered in a dense armoire resembling obsidian, with dark red traces here and there. Extraordinary skills surpassing the norm, amazing strength, you guys are indeed impressive. Amidst calm praises, the aura of this war elephant, pitch black with traces of blood, gradually surged. Boom, 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 its aura surged again and again, causing the ground to crack, which continued to spread further and further. More dramatically, behind this black elephant, countless shadowy figures of elephants emerged. This was its ability after stepping into Tier 4, when its battle spirit grew stronger and more intense, the intangible aura started to solidify. And now, facing this body wall composed of King Kongs, the king of war elephants started to take them seriously. Let's see if you can withstand me. The corner of its lips rose, tracing a cruel arc. The black elephant slowly raised its forelegs as a dark glow rippled in front of its hooves. Boom, boom, the invisible waves continuously expanded, as an inexplicable pressure caused the air to almost solidify. The next moment, with a thunderous boom, its hooves landed on the ground. Immediately, the faces of each King Kong changed as the ground before the black elephant rose into the air, transforming into towering waves, reaching tens of meters high, crashing towards the King Kongs. The waves were so high that even the sky was blocked, and their shadows covered even the moonlight. Are all tactics in the face of calamity futile? As if self-deprecating, the deputy of the King Kongs, Mong Yu, promptly drew a massive shield from behind. Beside him, the other King Kongs followed suit, each drawing out a massive shield. Their shields clamped with each other, instantly forming a black wall. Everything happened in a seamless coordination. As for where the shields came from, naturally, they came from the spatial necklace. It was an artifact personally crafted by Wuxia. He was capable of creating even the 9 space pockets, so creating a small storage space was naturally not difficult. However, this kind of treasure, in terms of level, was a Tier 4 spirit treasure. Even for Wuxia, crafting such artifacts was quite laborious. Up until now, there were only 3. One was the spatial necklace, belonging to the strongest clan of Misty Mountains. And this necklace, now, was worn by Mong Yu, the deputy of the King Kongs, containing various weapons and equipment of the King Kongs, as well as some sophisticated devices that only humans could use. Boom, accompanied by a thunderous clap, the black shields raised by King Kongs shook as the waves of soil fiercely crashed into the shields. The terrifying impact caused the webs of the King Kong's hands to crack. Yet, this was just the beginning, because this was just the first wave. The black war elephant's move had transformed the ground into waves, attacking continuously and relentlessly until the opponent was completely subjugated. In other words, each wave of earth would be higher and more powerful than the last. Currently, this was just the first round. I have a bad feeling about this. Why? Expressing her doubt, Nine Tails looked at Sarcosuchus beside her. You got it wrong. Chuckling, Sarcosuchus looked at the human wall, which was now mostly submerged by waves tens of meters high, and explained, my bad feeling isn't about those war elephants. At this point, Sarcosuchus's gaze focused on a figure standing quietly in the air afar. Clearly, there were no spiritual energy fluctuations, but he was standing in the air. This figure, with his arms clasped around his chest, had a calm expression. However, if one paid attention to his gaze, they could certainly see that he was quietly watching the King Kongs, who were repeatedly pushed back by the waves stirred by the ground. Spurt, unable to suppress the injuries within, one of the King Kongs actually spurted out a mouthful of blood. Immediately after, the other King Kongs spurted one after another, seemingly unable to contain their injuries either, dyeing the cold black shield red. Crack, crack, at the sight of it, the air around Dark King turned colder as he clenched his fists in anger. Looking closely, one would see Dark King's long mane like black hair, continuously extending, from his neck to the front, while his icy cold pupils kept contracting until they turned into beastly eyes. Enough. Seemingly suppressing it for a long time, Dark King's pupils suddenly contracted. Boom. The next moment, a fearsome aura fiercely erupted from him before a sky-shaking sonic boom exploded in the sky. What? Crying in surprise, Black War Elephant's pupils contracted. Because, right at that very moment, a figure covered in black fur all over its body appeared in front of its eyes in an instant. A figure with a cold expression, cold eyes, and even a cold aura. "The harm you've caused to my people, I will repay it in full," Dark King declared in a simple yet furious voice, as if squeezing it from between his clenched teeth. At the same time, Dark King's fist struck the Black War Elephant. Boom! With a deafening boom, the Black War Elephant's hide kept sinking, until a fist imprint was left. Immediately after, the Black War Elephant felt its body uncontrollably thrown backwards. However, before it could fly far, another sonic boom shook the sky and earth, as the Dark King's leg swung through the air like a whip in the direction where the Black War Elephant was thrown back. Boom! With another bang, another wave of energy burst forth, shaking the entire body of the Black War Elephant, much to its shock. It found it hard to accept that such a small figure could possess such overwhelming strength. Even harder to accept was that this power could shake itself. At this moment, the Black War Elephant felt its internal organs churning. However, this was just the beginning. Boom, 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 accompanied by thunderous sonic booms, punch after punch rained down on the Black War Elephant, sending it flying here and there in the air like a ball. Every punch was inconceivably fast and extremely powerful. Every moment, it demonstrated the aesthetics of violence. At this time, if one were to notice the fur of Dark King, they would see it gradually turning crimson as he fought. This was one of Dark King's abilities, Berserk. The more excited and thrilled he got, the more his blood would flow like sweat, eventually dyeing his fur crimson. Simultaneously, Dark King's strength and speed would multiply. In other words, this was an ability born for battle, that made him grow stronger the more he fought, until reaching the peak. Engaging him head-on was a really bad idea. If his opponent failed to outright kill him, they would face violent attacks like a storm. And this is still not the most terrifying part. Narrowing his eyes slightly, a humanoid figure standing on the canopy of the towering tree looked down with a smirk. Dark King's innate talent is truly intimidating, murmuring. Wuxia focused his gaze on Dark King before a clear line of text appeared before his eyes. Innate talent, potential unlocked, each injury is a growth opportunity for them. More frighteningly, an ability that has hurt them once will be significantly less effective, or even ineffective, the next time. The other meaning of this talent was, don't use the same ability on him twice, it won't be effective. If he can truly grow, will become the sharpest spear. Giving this simple evaluation, Wuxia felt gratified. This was what he wanted to see. His mutant beasts growing. Even if he was not around one day, they could still hold up the sky for him. Taking a long, deep breath, suppressing his emotions, Wuxia shifted his gaze to the distance. More formidable enemies were approaching in the distance. Master, I'll take them on. With a light chuckle, Nine Tails, stepping on a sea of fire, headed towards the swarm of mutant ants. Her near-infinite spiritual energy made her the most suitable to deal with this unprecedented ant tide. On another side. Leave them to me. Grinning, Golden Ant walked alone towards the herd of mutant wild buffaloes. Actually, the mutant wild buffaloes of this continent were among the most dangerous beings. Even the Lion clan did not want to provoke them. At the same time, Ruhur. Ruhur, amidst sky-shaking dragon roars, Sarcosuchus, Little Tenth, and Little White opened their eyes, looking towards the horizon, where black waves could be seen approaching. Upon closer inspection, it was tides of mutant beasts, converging at their location. There were mutant rhinoceroses as large as mountains, clad in scales. There were mutant antelopes with tall and pointed horns. There were even swarms of mutant locusts sweeping through the air like raindrops. However, they were not the most concerning thing. The truly concerning thing was the burly young man holding a toothed club at the horizon, slowly walking over. Thump, 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 each of his steps felt like a stomp on the chest, instilling an indescribable oppression, causing one's heart to tighten. Clearly, he was just one slightly burly man, yet he seemed as grand as the sky. Even the powerful mutant beasts like Sarcosuchus had their pupils contract as a sense of awe surged in their hearts, as if witnessing a divine force. A reincarnator. In a nearly cold voice, Golden Monkey's eyes sparkled with starlight. Reincarnators were great beings of extraordinary power that had returned from the previous era. Perhaps they were just a wisp of a remnant soul, or just an inheritance, or just fragments of memory. Nevertheless, reincarnators were the prodigies of the previous era, possessing unimaginable means. Not to mention anything else, just seeing this distant figure, surrounded by countless phantoms, made Golden Monkey's face change. Each phantom seemed tangible. There were lions galloping on the grasslands, elephants stepping on the stars, each and every phenomena indicated the difficulty of dealing with this person. And right at this moment, boom, 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 war drums echoed in the distance. Looking towards the direction of the sounds, everyone saw thousands upon thousands of figures, dressed in beast skin and covered in tattoo-like markings, charging towards them. Kill! Our barbarian clan will never perish. Kill! No foreigner is allowed to step on this land. Thunderous roars after roars echoed through the sky. Clearly, they were not speaking human languages, yet it resonated throughout the heavens and earth. In the distance, signal fires were rising, and beacons were burning. Tisk, tsk, so these are the masters of this land, murmuring, Sarcosuchus' gaze focused on three figures hovering above the main force. A trio of 2 men and 1 woman, all extraordinary. We're the fire barbarian of the barbarian clan, tonight, will light the beacon fire the entire world. A thunderous shout reverberated through the sky, and the deep red markings surrounding the figure in the sky began to flicker intermittently. Moments later, several candle stands appeared, with the phantom of an altar materializing in the center. Tap, 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 step by step, the figure who claimed to be Fire Barbarian ascended the altar, his aura growing increasingly terrifying. Faintly, endless flames ignited from the candle stand phantoms. This is not a technique of this world, even if it's been greatly refined, it cannot hide that ancient, primitive aura. Frowning, Golden Monkey stepped forward, his eyes swirling with stars. Right at that very moment. Burn, with a loud shout, overwhelming flames erupted from the altar. Following this, the candle stand phantoms also started spewing waves of flames, surging towards Wuxia's position. Looking up, the sky for thousands of meters was covered in flames. The terrifying momentum caused not only other mutant beasts but even Ninetails, a master of fire, to have a drastic change in expression. Humph! Golden Monkey let out a cold snort. His expression remained completely calm. The next moment, he raised his right hand and suddenly waved it towards the sky. In that instant, the world underwent a complete change, the bright night sky turned completely dark in the blink of an eye. However, in the next moment, countless illusory stars began to shimmer in the depths of the darkness. And with the wave of Golden Monkey's hand, these illusory stars flew from the darkness and gathered around him, seemingly attracted to him, forming a 1,000-meter-long galaxy. Innate divine ability, shift stars and change constellations, a deep and resonant voice echoed through the pitch-black sky as the phantom of the galaxy rushed towards the sea of fire. Boom! With a thunderous explosion, the sea of fire was reversed, surging back towards him, causing Fire Barbarian's eyes to widen in shock. If Golden Monkey was in Tier 8 or even Tier 7, then this illusory galaxy would have been real. Sighing in marvel, Wuxia gazed into the night sky. There, in the unreachable distant sky, truly lay a galaxy. Who could imagine that such a terrifying and vast galaxy is merely a means of attack in the eyes of the strong? The so-called reversing the stars is nothing more than a praise for great sages with extraordinary powers. Hiya, Wuxia heaved a long, deep sigh, suppressing the envy deep in his eyes. Then, he waved his hand, before a green vortex appeared with a roar. Roar, roar, roar. Immediately, earth-shaking roars echoed through the world one after another. Afterward, a colossal figure with bronze fur, towering 100 meters, slowly emerged from the vortex. Right behind him was a grinning platypus surrounded in flames, and with magma flowing in the depths of its eyes. But it did not end here. The duo was joined by a tall, slender figure that appeared out of nowhere. The trio were none other than Behemoth, Red-beak Platypus, and Spirit Cat. As sentinels, they lived in the heart of the pocket of vitality, and were originally meant for hunting other worlds. However, their first appearance was on this very world, and to wage war on the African continent. Of course, if one paid attention, they would notice two more enormous beasts lurking in the depths of the vortex. They were Slytherin and Leviathan, the Sea Beast King. These two were secretly observing, waiting to choose a suitable prey. Wuxia was not in any rush to let them out. There were more and more strong foes arriving. As for how many powerful transcendents were on this continent, no one could actually say with surety. However, one thing was certain: if Wuxia did not take action and leave the battle to the rest, then the battle would end in mutual destruction. So, Wuxia was the true deciding factor. With a smile in his heart, Wuxia focused his gaze on the imposing figure with the toothed club. His terrifying aura, which was increasing by the moment, was transforming the world around him into a prehistoric world. No wonder this continent is becoming more primitive. It's because this terrifying guy has been suppressing other natural disaster-class creatures and influencing the entire continent with his power, recreating the ancient era. Wuxia shook his head as countless willow branches gently swaying, even in the absence of the wind. Despite their gentle sways, the branches seemed to be carrying invisible momentum, revealing nothing special about them. You must be the infamous tree monster, right? Shouting in a deep and ancient voice, the distant figure holding the toothed club turned slightly serious. At first, he had not noticed, however, now, when he truly laid eyes on the tree monster, he realized its power seemed to exceed his wildest expectations. Just the aura alone is at the utmost peak of the natural disaster class. Furthermore, there is an inexplicable yet hidden aura around it. It seemed to be hiding something. Nice to meet you, I am the Lord of the Mist. A faint laughter echoed through the sky. And right at the drop of Wuxia's words, white mist began to rise. Hush! A powerful gust of wind swept through the world as a vast expanse of white mist enveloped hundreds of kilometers in an instant. Everything happened so quickly that there was no time to react. Countless mutant beasts saw a blinding white before their eyes, and then found themselves surrounded by white mist. Not only was their perception hindered, but their vision was also reduced by 80 to 90%. At this moment, these mutant beasts did not know that within the white mist, mutant beasts belonging to Misty Mountains were quietly lurking. Accustomed to Wuxia's white mist, they had already evolved unique organs and abilities. Now, as the thick fog arose, the combat effectiveness of Misty Mountains creatures increased by at least 20 to 30%. This increment, in such a vast battlefield, could be lethal. If one looked carefully, they would hear desperate wails coming from everywhere as mutant beasts of Misty Mountains began their true hunt one after another. Humph. The barbarian king let out a cold snort, but his expression darkened, simply because this mist was so bizarre, even he found it unnerving. Just then, swoosh, sound of something rapidly cutting through the air echoed within the mist, and the barbarian king instinctively became alert. Through his peripheral vision, he suddenly discovered the endless mist converging, transforming into a lifelike, several meters large, fist, smashing towards him. Insignificant skill. Sneering, the barbarian king sidestepped a few paces. Moments later, with a thunderous crash, a dozens of meters wide crater appeared at the location where the barbarian king happened to be standing. Is this all you've got? The barbarian king swung the toothed club, creating a fierce gale of wind that cleared away the surrounding mist, before running straight towards the towering tree deep within the mist. Every time his feet touched the ground, a resounding thump would reverberate through the mist, and the ground cracked. Every now and then, he would encounter a mutant beast. Boom! With a thunderous bang, a Tier 3 mutant tiger of the Tiger clan was sent flying by the huge toothed club. More horrifyingly, the mutant tiger, like a cannonball, knocked away countless other mutant beasts along its path. As for the tiger itself, its bones were shattered, and its body went limp. One strike, just one strike. His terrifying strength even made Sarcosuchus and other top mutant beasts of Misty Mountains change their expressions. However, just then, Yuziu's voice suddenly echoed in their minds. "Go, your battlefield is further out." Hearing Yuziu's words, Sarcosuchus and Little Tenth glanced at each other, before nodding and responding, "Yes," at the same time. Rohur, Rohwar, Rohur, giving out dragon roars, Sarcosuchus, Little Tenth, and Little White charged towards the approaching beast tide. With their strength, at the very least, they were more than capable of protecting themselves. Even if besieged by several natural disaster-class mutant beasts, Yuziu believed they could handle it with ease. The only potential threat are the barbarians. Each of them is extremely peculiar. One fire barbarian has already made Golden Monkey, the most mysterious being in Misty Mountains, vigilant. Yet according to the expert of the Bear Barbarian tribe, there is also the High Priestesses, Moon Barbarian and the Feather Barbarian. I wonder who'll be fighting whom. Smiling, Yuziu was not worried. These barbarians are indeed powerful compared to others of the same level. No wonder Golden Monkey is so cautious. As children, they can tear apart tigers and leopards. For their coming-of-age ceremony, they must have slayed creatures like dragons. With such customs, it's no surprise that each one is a mutant beast in human skin. Still, they are ultimately products of a bygone era. This era doesn't belong to you, mumbling to himself, Yuziu's eyes grew colder. Let's have some fun first. As Yuziu spoke, his spiritual energy surged. Suddenly, the boundless mist started gathering as a vortex appeared out of nowhere. Soon, two misty figures resembling kangaroos quietly emerged from within the vortex. Kill! With a thunderous shout, the two figures' mist dissolved into the surrounding white mist like air. They were immortal mist beasts, the product of Yuziu's first offensive ability to reach level 5 after he stepped into Tier 5. This was an ability that required time and nurturing. For the moment, it was not too terrifying. However, what it lacked in power, it made up for in strangeness. Just like now. Somewhere within the vast expanse of mist, waves of mist rolled back as a towering figure, wielding toothed club, charged forward. Everywhere he went, mutant beasts trembled, and even the ground seemed to quake in fear. However, sensing a premonition, the figure suddenly raised the toothed club to his chest. Boom! Immediately, a thunderous crash reverberated through the dense mist and sparks flew off the toothed club, causing the barbarian king to stop. Looking up, he saw a beast claw, clenched into a fist, extending from the white mist in front of him. The strength of the punch was quite amazing. Even the barbarian king couldn't help but secretly praise its power. However, right at that moment, boom, the barbarian king swung his left arm, and with another deafening crash, another beast claw collided with his left arm. "Who are you?" Asking in a low, gruff voice, the barbarian king squinted his eyes. Vaguely, he could make out two extremely robust beastly figures that bore some resemblance to humans. "They look a bit like the mutant kangaroos from Australia," muttering to himself, the barbarian king noticed these two beast shadows dissipating into the white mist like the wind. As creatures who were born from mist, they were immortal and indestructible. Now, within the white mist, they were like fish in the sea. For the immortal mist beasts, their level of menace skyrocketed. It was only due to the barbarian king's formidable sixth sense that he managed to come out unscathed. Had it been any other natural disaster-class mutant beasts, they might not have been so lucky, and would have suffered wounds from these two sneak attacks. So, you're the barbarian king. Come on, try to reach me. Yu's faint laughter echoed through the white mist. Visibly, the white mist around the barbarian king gathered and formed a tornado of mist. This tornado's rotation speed increased rapidly, flickering with faint arcs of electricity. From afar, it formed a vast tornado of mist spanning hundreds of meters, with the barbarian king at its center. Within this misty tornado, the two immortal mist beasts cultivated by Wuxia, dark and light twin kings quietly lurked. A few moments later, boom, 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 continuous explosions reverberated within the torrent of mist as arcs of electricity within the tornado intensified. If one looked inside the tornado, they would see the dark and light kings engaged in a fierce battle with the barbarian king. They were moving extremely fast, too fast for the naked eye to follow. Only sparks from their collisions were visible, constantly appearing here and there. More terrifyingly, the surging spiritual energy affected the entire tornado of mist. Die! With a grin, the rapidly moving barbarian king seized an opening and swung his toothed club. Boom! An immortal mist beast grunted as the barbarian king's toothed club struck it with a thunderous crash, sending it flying like a cannonball into the surrounding misty storm. However, mere moments later, to the barbarian king's surprise, with a sudden swoosh, the mist beast he had just struck returned. These creatures, frowning, the barbarian king locked his grip on the neck of the other mist beast. Crack, as he squeezed his arm hard, the mist beast shattered into a cloud of white mist. But within seconds, the dispersed mist gathered into the original mist beast, before punching the barbarian king's face like a boxer. With a thunderous crash, the barbarian king's cheek caved in. The punch caused even the barbarian king to feel a stinging pain. Immortal mist beasts are indeed extraordinarily difficult to deal with. Even though it was his own trick, Wuxia could not help but secretly praise it. So long as the white mist could not be dealt with, these immortal mist beasts could not be defeated. Their undying and indestructible nature was no mere boast. Against ordinary natural disaster-class transcendence, they could simply tire them to their death. Of course, this barbarian king was anything but ordinary. Glancing up, the barbarian king, standing within the mist storm, seemed to realize something and suddenly let out a cold laugh. So that's how it is, the barbarian king muttered, rubbing his aching cheek. The next moment his spiritual energy surged, as the markings covering his body began to flash brightly. Immediately afterward, a series of cracking sounds echoed, as if space itself was breaking, before a phantom of an elephant let out a sky-piercing trumpet. At the same time, a phantom of a rampaging lion dashed out from the grasslands, lunging at one of the mist beasts. Compared to your methods, our clan's totems have reached their peak. In rare satisfaction, the barbarian king raised his toothed club and swung it fiercely at the storm of mist. Boom! A deafening roar echoed through the storm before the mist storm was violently blasted away, revealing a massive gap. Through this gap, the barbarian king, leaving deep footprints, stepped out, step by step. As for Wuxia's two immortal mist beasts, they were engaged in a combat with the phantom of the elephant and the rampaging lion. Clap, 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 a light applause came from the mist. Even Wuxia could not help but commend the barbarian king's techniques, as expected of the ancient barbarian clan. Your methods are indeed extraordinary. Our barbarian clan has many more formidable techniques. With a prideful laugh, the barbarian king rested the toothed club on his shoulder and laughed heartily. Come, try to stop me from approaching you. But let me warn you, if I get close to your true body, I swear I will uproot it entirely and make it the holy relic of my clan. However, despite the barbarian king regarding him as a trophy, Wuxia remained indifferent. This was his current reality. After all, to everyone else, he was truly a heaven and earth treasure, and there was nothing he could do about it. He was a spirit tree. This fact would not change. Sighing in his heart, a cold glint flashed in Yu's eyes. Then he spoke in a simple and blunt manner, making a being like me as your clan's holy relic would be a waste. How about this, you submit to me, treat my true body as a holy relic, and worship it. What do you say? Humph. That depends on your capability. Coldly laughing, the barbarian king no longer concealed his killing intent. At the same time, thud, with a step forward, the barbarian king's already towering body grew even taller. What was more astonishing was that the muscles all over his body seemed to have a life of their own, constantly pulsating. In just a few moments, he had transformed into a small giant. His terrifying muscles solidified into strands of steel, pulsating across his body like sinister scars. Come on, try to stop me. Shouting in a hoarse voice, the barbarian king raised his toothed club and charged toward Yu's true body. The next moment, swoosh, 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 with a series of whooshing sounds, beams of light shot out from the white mist. Upon closer inspection, these were willow branches, glowing like divine chains, shooting toward the barbarian king. The willow branches were fast, extremely so. Like bullets piercing the air, they aimed precisely at various parts of the barbarian king's body. The barbarian king's pupils fiercely contracted at the sight of this. He promptly mustered his spiritual energy and took a sudden step forward. With this step, the ground shook violently as large chunks of earth flew up to block the incoming willow branches. At the same time, the barbarian king sprinted at a speed imperceptible to the naked eye, approaching Yu from another direction. As a matter of fact, Yu was intentionally holding back. The power of a Tier 5 Transcendent was not limited to this. If he unleashed his true power, the speed of those willow branches would increase several-fold, approaching the speed of light. Not to mention dozens of them, even a single branch could pierce the barbarian king's heart, but that would take away all the fun. Until the entire battle was over, Yu did not mind playing with the barbarian king. More importantly, Yu sensed that this barbarian king seemed to have some trump card to counter him. Is it the resurrect of the barbarian ancestor? Murmuring to himself, Yu looked forward to the barbarian king's final ability, the ability that could summon the most ancient ancestor at the cost of his life. It was a fearsome ability, and one Yu anticipated the most. The only question is whether this ability could rival my true power. Maybe it could, maybe it couldn't, but it's definitely worth looking forward to. With a smile in his heart, the playful gleam in Yu's eyes grew even stronger. At this moment, on a distant battlefield. Roar, 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 amidst excited and fervent roars, a human-shaped weapon charged into the entire beast horde with an imposing and invincible stance. It was one of the most famous beast hordes on this continent, a herd of mutant wild buffaloes. Thousands upon thousands of black wild buffalo were charging fiercely, their horns pointed towards the sky glistening with a cold and sharp gleam. Rumble, rumble, the ground shook again and again, as if trembling. However, in just a moment, this terrifying beast horde came to an abrupt halt, for before them was a 100-meter-tall monster with bronze-colored fur. Charging recklessly, it almost ignored the impact of the beast horde. With just a casual slap, the subsequent gale from it sent several Tier 3 mutant wild buffaloes flying. Yet, in the next moment, a large hand grabbed toward the herd, seizing several mutant wild buffaloes and stuffing them into its mouth. Crunch, crunch, amidst the hair-raising sounds of bones shattering, the most despairing and painful wails echoed through the world. Witnessing this scene, not just the mutant wild buffalo, but even other beast hordes had their eyes bloodshot. Cruelty is the law of nature, but on the battlefield, such brutal feeding was akin to provoking the entire beast horde. Moo, 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 the mutant wild buffaloes bellowed one after another, surging with spiritual energy. Ha ha ha, pursing his lips, Behemoth broke into wild laughter. Come on, let's slaughter to our heart's content. The more than 100 meters tall behemoth, this unknown beast to the African continent, let out a roar before plunging into the herd, beginning a true massacre. Meanwhile, on the other side. Freeze, asterisk with a low murmur, the gigantic little white, released howling cold winds that swept across the battlefield, causing everything in their path to freeze. From afar, one could see a layer of frost spreading through the ground at an extremely terrifying speed. Countless ice sculptures emerged, with their final expressions of despair preserved on their faces. Amidst the storm of biting cold gales, Little White, like a queen of extreme cold, roared towards the sky, declaring her existence to the continent. However, at this moment, as if sensing something, Little White's eyes looked towards a nearby spot, where a barbarian woman, holding a staff of bones and wearing white robes, could be walking elegantly in the air. With every step, a phantom of the bright moon would gradually appear under her feet, supporting her in the mid-air. She was the great priestess of the barbarian clan, Moon Barbarian, master of order, enforcer of barbarian laws, and the most unfathomable existence after the barbarian king. Beast of the otherworld, I shall bury you. With a hint of serenity, the bright moon hanging high behind her exuded an indescribable chill. Immediately, the woman raised the bone staff in her hand, calling to the bright moon in the night sky, I, the great priestess of the barbarian tribe, Moon Barbarian, pray to the bright moon, the ancient power of the moon, shall finally awaken today. As she spoke, the phantom of the moon beneath her feet grew brighter. Simultaneously, in the depths of the night sky, the bright moon trembled slightly, surging with an indescribable power. What surprised Little White even more was the sight of a beam of moonlight descending from the night sky, enveloping the great priestess. Is this some new kind of power? Somewhat astonished, Little White was momentarily stunned. However, at this moment, unbeknownst to anyone, Wuxia suddenly felt something call him, prompting him to slowly lift his gaze, looking towards the bright moon in the night sky. I heard your call, muttering to himself, Wuxia's consciousness sank deep into his body. In a moment, Wuxia's surroundings suddenly blurred. By the time his consciousness returned from a hazy state, a desolate world presented before Wuxia. The world before him was cold and ancient, and the horizon above was vast, dark, and completely empty. However, upon closer inspection, Wuxia spotted a giant tree at the far end of the horizon. It appeared to be frozen, for a layer of frost was visible upon it. Its intertwining branches made this giant tree look like a graceful maiden. However, despite the serene appearance, it was exuding an indescribable chill. This was the sweet osmanthus tree that had awakened her ancient bloodline. During this long time since they last met, the sweet osmanthus had reached tier 4, and had been slumbering all the while like Aurora. However, just now, she suddenly awoke from her slumber and called out to Wuxia through the blood covenant, "What's the matter?" A gentle voice echoed in the sweet osmanthus tree heart. Immediately, Wuxia sensed a wave of joy and excitement from the sweet osmanthus tree. She seemed to have been waiting for too long, but like a shy maiden, she hesitated to speak. Sensing the sweet osmanthus tree's nervousness, Wuxia softly called out, "It's okay, tell me what happened, all right?" With a tender groan, the sweet osmanthus tree's body trembled slightly. In the next moment, a scene surged into Wuxia's mind. In that scene, a woman holding a staff of bones was calling to the bright moon. As the ruler of the moon and with her roots deeply embedded inside it, the entire moon had become her domain. So naturally, the sweet osmanthus tree had sensed this. She responded in kind. Yet, shortly afterward, she seemingly sensed Wuxia's presence on the ground. So, she called out, seeking to verify something. I see. Realizing what had happened, Wuxia could not help but purse his lips into a smile. He was really surprised that the barbarian clan had such mysterious means to invoke the mysterious power of the moon. Had the sweet osmanthus tree not taken root on it, the great priestess could have easily summoned this mysterious power. However, now, with the sweet osmanthus tree rooted on the moon, she believed any attempt to summon this power would require Master's consent. If Master did not wish this power to be summoned, it would not be difficult to implement some countermeasures and cause backlash. Understanding this, Yuziyu smiled and stated directly, "Do as you wish, but be sure to prioritize yourself. You are still in a weakened state, do not overexert yourself." Hearing Yuziyu's reminder, the sweet osmanthus tree's branches trembled, as if she was both overjoyed and excited. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.